Well, hey there, guys, gals, and non-binary pals, and welcome back, Mifflin, finally, to the SPL. So we're going to go into the Road to Worlds kickoff this weekend. Of course, then kicking off, what would it be, the Road to Worlds, and this long, long journey for these teams. It's Gore and the aforementioned Mifflin. I gotta ask you, if at this point you're as excited as I am to just have SMITE back more consistently after, like, literally way too long. I don't know, 2 months, 3 months, however many months.
Look,
it feels like at least a year.
There are few things in the world that bring me as much joy as coming into the studio at least 3 days out of the week. At least we're getting more this week, and having the opportunity to put on a show and watch the absolute best players in the world play. So I would not want to be anywhere but here.
And the good news is that we've got a whole slew of new things to look at, right? I mean, we just had a new patch with a new season in-game going into this week, so that's going to change up a lot of what we expect to see God-wise, mechanic-wise, gameplay-wise. We also had, if anyone missed it, a massive shift in some rosters for the middle of the year. Now, if I remember correctly, in the long term, roster locks are going to be happening a little bit later in the phase, right before the end of the year, so there is going to be a point where they lock down, so maybe some more changes that could happen, but as of right now, the thing I've spotted in a lot of these, as you look at maybe the new teams, the current teams that are going to be coming into this phase, a lot of support changes, really what happened, right? Quig over to the Kings, Neilma to the Hounds, Jake now on the Gladiators, Genetics on the Warriors. I feel like a lot of support focused, and then, you know, like some guy called Panda Cat joined the Leviathans. Some dude named Kana is coming in to play solo. And so a couple of these teams go untouched, but for a lot of them, unscathed maybe even,
bow down.
At least supports were swapped around. And so I'm kind of curious, in your eyes, like how much do you expect to change from just support play?
I think anytime your front line has a shift, it's one of the most important changes you can make on a team. Generally, that's the first point of contact in the majority of engagements in SMITE. Not to get too much into the nitty-gritty, but when your front line is different, it affects how your back line's allowed to play. Some front liners are a little bit more so inclined to the stick around in the back line, be a peel style player. Some guys will run it down. So we'll see. I expect large sweeping changes, especially for those teams that had support changes. Or maybe even just the Gilded Gladiators, who had their entire front line eviscerated and are now running with a completely new two-man core.
Yeah, that one's going to be fun to watch. And speaking of which, Gladiators going to be coming up first as we switch over to look at the bracket. They're going to be playing the Ferrymen here in just a few minutes. Just now setting up down the hall. And of course, if you're wondering how this is, first things first, all matches are best of 5. That's not just true for this weekend, that's going to be true for this Road to Worlds phase as well. So if you like best of 5s, I've got great news for you here. You are in for it for every single week, but this weekend as well, all of these are going to be best of 5. So 2 today, 2 tomorrow. That'll get us through the corners, the 2 semis on Saturday, and then the finals will come in on Sunday. The bracket works the way you'd expect a bracket, right? Team wins, they move on. Team loses, they're knocked out. Simple, straightforward, and then when we get to the finals, those 2 teams, first and second, will then be drafting for the divisions, and we'll be going back into that divisional play that we had in Phase 1. In Division, you'll have a double round robin. Out of Division, single round robin. We'll be touching on that a ton throughout this weekend. But the biggest thing right now is getting through these quarterfinals, whether you are fighting for glory at this point, for some of these teams maybe to showcase, yes, the changes that we've made are absolutely
for money,
landing for money.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big motivator, as it turns out. I'm really excited to see a lot, right? Warriors and Kings are going to be playing against each other. Dragons and Ravens tomorrow. Hounds, Leviathans tomorrow as well, with a couple of changes. And Mifflin, the team that you had talked about and had mentioned that has the most changes to it, right? Kyrmi, Snoopy, Stuart sticking around on the Gladiators, but now with their front line completely replaced, no more Scary D, no more inbound, instead Kana and Jake taking in that position. And like you had said, that changes a lot of how your team's going to play, because now all of a sudden you've got 2 not only different styles, right? Because Jake coming from the Warriors had a whole W kind of mentality. You've got Kana, who had been playing in Europe for a long time, so those 2 maybe having to get onto the same page, but then also link up with the rest of the team. Feels like there could be maybe some minor complications.
Yeah, the Gilded Gladiators find themselves in a really interesting spot, not just for the reasons I brought up earlier, which is front line generally dictate the pace of the team fight in the late game, but also, as I understand it, or at least outside looking in, previously the primary shot caller for the Gilded Gladiators was inbound. That's Bobby, now on the casting team. He's not going to shot call us. I won't let him. But that does leave them in a position now where they've only had a few weeks with these changes to try and figure out who's going to be the leader for this team. Is it one of the OG players who has to step up in that leadership role, or are they expecting one of these newer members to really bring some of that guidance? I'm excited to see how they play, but generally teams that just replace their IGL tend to struggle for the first few weeks.
That being said, the times that we've seen, and I'm going to throw us all under the bus because we all came into this year saying, oh yeah, we looked at that Warriors roster and said, who's the shot caller? And then they had the longest undefeated streak in SMITE. So, in reality, who knows what the Gladiators are going to be capable of? Well, we're going to be finding out at this point. But I'm sure that they themselves know a little bit better. We actually have Snoopy standing by ready for an interview.
That's right, I got Snoopy from the Gilded Gladiators here joining me for the pregame. Snoopy, I guess let's just start off with, it's been a while since we had some competitive SMITE. We had Masters, and we had a couple of smaller events in with Divisional Stars, World Stars. Now kind of getting back into the real nitty-gritty of the SPL with this kickoff. How does it feel coming back to competitive play?
Oh, it feels great. I'm really excited for this whole split coming up with the best of fives and everything. It's going to be really nice to get a lot of games in, and especially since it's my first full split on LAN now, I'm excited to like really buckle down and get with the team and get situated and ready to play.
Yeah, and speaking of the team, you got a couple of new players on your team. Jake jumping over for the support role, Connor now jumping into solo lane. How do you feel that this kind of shift things up for the Gladiators? What are some expectations for the team for this phase?
We're really excited for our possibilities this phase. Like, I think our ceiling is really, really high, and like obviously the two players that we got on are like exceptional players, and we're really happy with them. Early days, it's going to be tough because it's two new players, like you say. We're still trying to get situated with how they want to play and how we want to play with them. And although it might be tough, I think it's going to be a lot better.
Now, going up against the Styx Ferrymen, a team that just won Masters, it was a long, hard-fought victory for them. What are some of the adjustments made that your team is making to try and face off against them, even though it's been some time since we've seen them? What are maybe some of your thoughts of trying to go against a team like this?
It's tough because they have a very individualized like play style. Like, they're very objective heavy, and I think it's a kind of objective meta at the moment. So we have to really lock them down, not to let them sneak any fire giants, and then try to take away some of their comfort picks on, like especially like Paul and Cyno. They have some very very individual picks, and if we gotta either take those away or ban them out, I think we'll have a good chance.
Yeah, and kind of talking about, objectives and the way the game is played, we've had a whole new map shift up, even from Roll Stars until now at the 10.9 season celebrations. What are some of your thoughts on the new patch and maybe potential for the new meta coming up?
I think it's really cool. I think the masks are really awesome, and like they can really dictate some of the early game. Like, if I'm a mid laner and I get my CDR, like that's awesome. Or if an ADC gets their attack speed early, it's really nice. But that as well is combined with, I think the open pit for the fire giant is really cool, and it's gonna change how like team fights happen around fire giant a lot. I think that'll be really interesting to see.
Well, Snoopy, thank you for coming out for the the pregame interview. Hopefully, we'll get to talk to you all maybe a little bit in the postgame if things go well for you. Good luck in your set. I'll let you get back with the team. We'll throw it back to the desk.
There you get to hear it. I mean, feeling not only good about the new changes, things like that coming in, but I think the team as a whole. I'm also kind of curious, and now my brain's stuck on it, how Snoopy felt about Stuart's performance during the Roll Stars, where he was locking in mid and absolutely running people down. If you get that kind of performance from Stu, and we've seen him play and have ridiculous KDAs normally in some of the regular season, it feels like the three that are kind of sticking around for the Gladiators are definitely going to give us a good show no matter what.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how this team really starts to line up together. Look, the conversation that we had earlier, and you brought up a great point. The Oni Warriors are another team that we had said might struggle without that in-game leader role, but they get away with it because they were still all aligned in methodology.
Yes.
They were all aligned in exactly how they wanted to play, and make no qualms, it is a run it down, minimal strategy, I'll out-mechanic my opponent play style. But when I think of the Gilded Gladiators, there is some of that potential. A lot of their wins, when they find them, have been incredibly dominant. They are a very good team at snowballing, but they've also got some players that like to hang back a little bit more. When I think of Snoopy and how he's been playing mid, it's a much more passive play style. When I think of Kyrmi, it's sure the progenitor of a lot of that aggression, but he also is susceptible to games where he's going to take it a little bit slower, wait till around level 11, 12 before he wants to get active out of the jungle. So I'm wondering if maybe there's going to be a bit of a culture shock for Jake in particular as he tries to slot into this team. And that's not even bringing up the absolute rookie to the league, Cxnnahh, out of the solo lane. I've had the experience of being in Cxnnah's shoes, where you join a much more experienced roster of players that you probably respect at a higher level of play, moving from the SEC to the SPL. That is a very difficult environment to play your best at. And that's not even taking into account that he's playing on LAN. So he's now probably a little bit nervous. This is a much bigger stage than he's used to. He's surrounded by a new squad. He's playing on ping, and he's playing against the most recent champions that we've got, the Ferrymen. So it really is a difficult start for him.
Well, the good news for him, at least, you know, kind of, you go back to some early discussions, specifically with like the Ravens. I remember an interview with Vin and Barra where they were talking about the fact that if Haddix had not been stepping up to say, yeah, I'll be on a team with you guys again, Kana was who they were looking at. So somebody who was already kind of being scouted, known to be maybe that next up for solo.
I caught him after Worlds, and I said, Kana, what are your plans for next year? And this is the previous World Championship. Yeah. He said, I don't know, man. Maybe I stick with the team. I said, bro, you are too good to stick around in Europe. We need you stateside. You're gonna find a team. He's a humble guy. He said, maybe if I find a chance, but finally he's here, man. I'm really excited to watch him play.
Yeah, I think he's gonna look great. I mean, and he looked great on the world stage last year. He looked great at any event that we were able to bring him to. Unfortunately, like you said though, the matchup for this team as a whole, bringing in 2 new players, 2 new frontliners, you're going up against the champions from Summer Masters, the Styx Ferrymen on the other side. So if we're looking at Kana specifically, that means matching up against Baskin, which most people are going to tell you is not a fun lane that you are going to have to deal with. And so Baskin's definitely going to be someone to keep your eyes on. I think in general, in SMITE, that's a good rule. It's pretty much been true since he joined the scene, and even when he wasn't in the scene, people couldn't keep his name out of their mouths because he was just that good at the game. And so keeping your eyes on him, looking at what he's been able to do in the solo lane, there's a lot in the Ferrymen to try and dissect, but I think that as far as frontline goes, right, you know what kind of style of play Aror is going to bring you. Baskin is a multifaceted threat.
Yeah, Baskin is really just one of the most prolific SMITE players of all time. Even the years where he is not actively even involved in the SPL, I compel you to find a year where he has not participated in at least one LAN event.
Yeah.
It just seems like somehow, some way, LAN time rolls around and a team is underperforming, pick up Baskin. And he was just a full-time student that happened to just drop into Alpharetta, Georgia to absolutely own everybody. Now that he's out of college, unfortunately for everyone else, it's no longer a hobby, and he's been getting up to some really dominant games. But this is a team that is not completely dictated by Baskin. He's surrounded by other ubiquitous, just absolutely crazy SMITE names, household SMITE names. CycloneSpin's been playing for just as long, has been just as successful. Auror's in that exact same conversation. All of them are very good in-game leaders. This is a team that has always had that potential, and somehow, some way, you still have to stretch yourself and go to the next level when you talk about Paul from PC.
Yeah.
This guy is one of the most dominant mid laners of all time. It seems like he's always got a pocket pick that is just going to throw everyone for a loop. Some days it's going to be the Morrigan, most days it's going to be the Morrigan, but otherwise still has that Scylla, can go to just about anything, capable of playing the assassins out of mid as well. So just a very difficult team to lock down. They're capable of playing that slower style. When they get a lead, and if the lead's on Aror in particular, they'll run you down every single time. It's a team that has become one of my favorites to watch.
Yeah, and honestly, it's because of something that Aror had mentioned. And, you know, there were jokes and conversations about, oh man, this team's always a LAN time team. Like, whenever it comes to tournaments, that's just when they seem to pop off. And Aror, he came in and he said, yeah, you know, like, people say that, and that's just not true. Like, we just learn.
Well, look, Aror, I think maybe misunderstands a little bit. It is true.
Yeah.
It is true.
It's true because they learn.
They're learning throughout the phase. I think what Aror means to say is it's not on purpose.
Yeah.
When
it's not
Zapman
intentional
teams,
that they're that good.
Yeah, when Zapman teams take it easy through the phase, right, that makes a little bit of sense. They always used to pick it up at LAN. Auror teams, they're not taking it easy through the phase. They're trying to get their wins, but they always have that little bit extra once it comes to these big events.
And that's the push that I think that you come to expect to see. That being said, when there's something new and fresh, it opens up this conversation of like, what are we going to see from Cyno? What kind of picks do the teams right now value in general? And so we'll find out. Game 1, picks and bans, Ferrymen and Gladiators. The Ferrymen will be your first pick team. And reminder, this is a best of 5. Every single set this weekend is going to be a best of 5. And so you're rooted, I think, for a little bit longer of a game. And maybe we'll see some of these picks and bans change as the sets go on. But for game 1, especially on a new patch, Sun Wukong, Jormungandr, and Charon, who is now officially available for competitive play, gets banned out there by the Ferrymen. Gladiators on the other side, Ganesh, the Chernabog, and A TBD ban. Ganesh makes a lot of sense just because, I mean, Aror, JMac has quoted it, has gone on record saying it's the year of the elephant. And he, I would say, forced Ganesh to be a ban during the Summer Masters.
I mean, Ganesh is just such a good character when you just think about the stats that he brings to the team, right? Massive silence that lasts for a good long while simultaneously giving your entire team protections. You can defense shred the other team and just shred the objectives. So I think makes a good deal of sense that he's been taken off the table. What is surprising me is that we're already seeing a massive shift in the meta from what we had seen last from the SPL teams, which is it's no longer Martichoras City.
Yeah.
We've seen inklings of this in the SCC and at the amateur level recently. Magical Hunters on the rise. They can shred through structures. Freya's not exactly one of those. Every other Magical Hunter, very good at shredding through structures. Freya, a little bit more PvP-centric. Very good at around 3 items at just running through enemies. But I'm really curious to see what the pace of game looks like around the duo lane now. Because Freya, it's not like it used to be back in the Boots meta where you're 20 minutes in, then you're allowed to play. For the first 20, it's AFK farm. Generally, you can get her online pretty quickly. But it does remove that standard Magical Hunter playstyle of jam the structure, take down the tower, rotate out, take out another tower, right? We saw that a lot from the Gilded Gladiators at the beginning of the year. Instead now, maybe you've got eyes on Fury. Freya's actually very good at dealing with neutral objectives.
And something that we talked a bit about, it was the last game of Masters, the last game of Finals, where Cyclone played the Freya. And when I got to talk to him afterward in the interview, it was just like, what brought out the Freya? What happened? He's like, I wanted to play her earlier, but they just kept letting me have Marty, so I never got the chance. And so maybe, you know, like you said, best in slot. But very much like you mentioned, not great in comparison to the other Magical Hunters at pushing down towers. Her way of doing it is kill you dead, then push down the tower without any threats. Olorun on the other side, as you had mentioned, the Gladiators have liked that style of play already. They're going right back to it. So it's going to work out well for him. Amaterasu gets locked in with that, and I'd love to pick your brain on those, but to catch up, Pele and Guan Yu also locked in. And when we're looking at it, Pele, Freya, they were on the cusp, they were on the edge, they were kind of in, kind of out, right? Dipping their toes into the meta. Ama, Olorun with the recent changes, and Guan Yu, though, the 2 warriors that are on the list, have not really seen a whole lot of play lately, and so jumping back in feels like a big deal.
Yeah, I think it's some itemization changes that we've seen in the patches as of recent that are going to bring Amaterasu in particular back into the meta. Some of those auto attack items are a little bit better now, so her laning phase has gotten a bit stronger.
There he is.
Pele, of course, has seen a massive buff as of recent. If you guys haven't been paying attention to patch notes, it's almost just a brand new gameplay loop for Pele, which is as long as she has Pyroclast available, her third ability, the additional movement speed and AoE damage around her feet, can be recharged. She can regain fuel if she hits Pyroclast on an enemy. So the beam ability, hit a wave, hit an enemy god, and your chase potential goes up. You're allowed to stay in that form almost indefinitely, I'd say, especially in some of these team fights. So very powerful in that regard, very good at rotating through the map. Guan Yu, some of the item changes also going to assist him. Those healing items, very good right now. And still has always just been a standard initiator, having cavalry charge or just the defense shred from Talu Assault, the slows, all those things tend to lend itself to a pretty decent pick. He's always on the verge of meta. It always seems like he's like one item change or one slight number change from coming right back to one of those priority picks.
Well, you got to tell me Paul's on your mind without saying the actual phrase. Set ban, which is sitting right next to that Raijin ban. Raijin is Paul's second most played god, and then Set is, you know, like number 8 on there, but Set has also been demolishing people from Paul in mid the last few. And then Thoth, which again, Mifflin, I think goes to show some of the changes that we've seen, not only to gods, but maybe itemization. I also think, like, you know, this is something that the casters will jump into, but like the recipes that are available
How have we
now.
not talked about recipes?
Yeah, right?
Goodness.
It's just opened up so much. And there's so much going on for these gods to suddenly be in there, to the point where, I dare say, Mifflin, this is one of the first times in a actual game, and not something that's into the phase, doesn't matter, you know, doesn't affect standings whatsoever. We've got an Arachne ban on the board next to a Mercury, because those gods, not only, I mean, Arachne with a lot of changes, but with some of these items, suddenly are right back into the conversation of potentially being meta. Have to put a pause on them because we don't get to see them yet. That just goes to show that they might slip through sometime this weekend. And instead, alongside that Marty, which was their last pick there for the Gladiators, Cabrakan gets locked in, who also saw a lot of mana changes and like capability of sustaining himself and just bullying in lane a lot in the recent patch.
Yeah, well, long short of it, Cabrakan stays in your face longer, essentially, I'd say.
He's mean.
Everything he was doing before, he's a little bit better at it now. He's going to stay involved in those team fights a bit more consistently.
Ooh.
This is a very strong front line for both of these teams. Nike, of course, allowed to stick in those fights for as long as possible. Guan Yu going to be your standard initiator. I am a bit concerned as far as initiation is concerned for the Styx Ferrymen. If it's not cavalry charge, I mean, you're going to have Pele acting as a solo agent. Opwatch can make a no-play zone, but a Nike jump-in is going to get caught by a Sunder, right? You're immediately getting rid of that ultimate, the Sentinel of Zeus, losing out on that secondary HP bar, and all of a sudden you're very susceptible in that backline. It's a pick that we've seen from Ferryman. A fair deal in the past, though, so I'm willing to gloss over it for now. The Gilded Gladiators, on the other hand, this is a scary composition, and maybe it's my 2-month-old SPL brain still at play. But Olorun plus Martichoras, it just feels like if you're locking anyone down, they're going to have all their defense taken away. They're going to have their time dilated. They're going to essentially have 2 hunters staring at them. And if you've survived all that, you've got the wall of CC, and I'm not talking about the literal wall from Cabrakan, but the stuns from Amaterasu, the silence, the multiple stuns from Cabrakan, or even just this fear now with Hun bots rounding out the draft. It is a very CC-heavy composition. There is massive threat on ultimate and on beads here for the Styx Ferrymen. You might even be forced for some of your squishy targets to pick up a Magi's just by how much the Gilded Gladiators have got on the other side. And it's not as if they've sacrificed damage for CC, which is generally the conversation, because it's Olorun Marty. It's a very scary draft.
It's a team that should hit hard, and like you said, I mean, you prefaced it with, oh, only if they can isolate or like stun somebody, CC. They've got a lot of that.
They got a lot of it.
And that's going to cause some trouble. Mifflin, maybe this is residual. You know, you said 2-month-old SPL brain. Maybe I need to brush the dust off from Roll Stars. Because all I can think about is the fact that Baskin very desperately wanted to make an Opwash solo work. And has for weeks, months, I guess at this point, been trying to make it work, and admittedly maybe not the most serious games that he's had to play. There's no chance that he's taking, like, you could throw that in a weird world. Do you think Paul could take Pele into mid? Would that work? Would you put Nike in the jungle? Because Cyno's played that in the past. Like, there's definitely some shifts that this team could make to make this really weird, even though it's pretty standard comp.
I fear to say it, Gore. I'm hesitant to put this into the universe.
Okay.
But it wasn't just Baskin on this team that was desperate to make Opwash work in the past. We saw Opwash support. Remember that game way back when.
Oh, man.
And honestly, looking at this composition, I might like to see Pele mid, Guan solo, Nike jungle, just knowing how the Ferrymen operate. That would leave it to be a double magical lane in the duo. But you do have the counter matchup into Olorun. You completely restrict his ability to use his knockback. It's going to heal him every time, which is going to result in a stun. I'm curious. Is it ideal? I don't know. It is a very high execution composition from the Styx Ferrymen. It's really interesting. We'll have to. I can't give you the answers. I'm sorry to the fans at home. I'm sorry to you, Gore. I can't give you the answers here. But I just know they're cooking something.
Well, here's the question, I guess, for you. Do you want the answers? Or do you want to wait for that curtain reveal for the casters? Because I do have them in front of me.
Yeah, give me the answer.
And it is what I kind of led the question with, right? So Freya going to CycloneSpin.
Okay.
Makes sense. That's locked in. Guan Yu is going over to Aror.
Oh, interesting.
So it's going to be in the support role, which gives me flavors of Trix Tank, but that's just because I'm old. Pele is going to Paul. Nike is going to Cyno.
Okay, so
and Baskin is taking Opwash into the solo lane. He apparently has been, not apparently, we've seen it. He has been very adamant about Opwash working well. Do you like it in solo, considering I think we only saw it lose?
Opwash into Amaterasu, assuming it is Amaterasu, and I think that is a fair assumption.
Yeah.
You've got a little bit of that counter. I mean, you can restrict the healing a little bit, but I'm just thinking of it now with Opwash isolated on an island in the solo lane. The issue that Baskin was running into when he was forcing this pick previously was the jungler sat on me. This time around, he's got Amaterasu and Hunbot staring at him. If Dazzling Offensive doesn't set you up for the kill, Fear No Evil will. Yeah. And if one or the other has to burn the bees, the other one will make it work, right? So I think this is going to be a very, very difficult laning phase for Baskin, assuming that the Gilded Gladiators put as much attention on them as I think they should. I think it should be a lot. I'd like to see one rotation of solo pre-5. I'd like to see one at 5. I want to see one once the ultimate's back up out of the jungle immediately afterward. You can sit on that guy and ruin his game.
Yeah.
And because of the nature of Pele out of the jungle, she's not a PO jungler. She doesn't have global presence. She's not a Thor. She's not going to throw a wall up for you. Or excuse me, Nike. She's got just the leap. She's got just the slow.
Yeah.
That's not hard CC for the most part. I'm thinking ignore the Nike and just run down Baskin.
And hope for the best, I guess, if you're on the other side. So that brings in the conversation of, like, teleport versus beads, right? We typically see a lot of teleports. There's been metas where that gets kind of dropped off to the side. But as of late, as of this year, teleport has been, like, the relic that if you don't have anything else to immediately go for, that's, like, the choice. If you go for beads, it feels like, okay, cool, we'll gank you, force the beads, and then we'll just do it again in 10 seconds, 30 seconds, however long. Some of those interesting issues. But as of right now, speaking of issues, we're facing some ourselves, and so we're going to throw it to a quick break, and when we get back, we'll have game 1.
to work the day away. I figured I could maybe pave a way. No, it's niggas that count the days till I fade away. But you know I always find my way to turn a bad look in the field to something solid. I'm on target for a major play. Used to waste the day away. She hit me to say I'm on her mind, but my commitment to the game got me OT till I OD and then I fade away. Lately I've been giving dial tones and meeting milestones. No way I'm giving all of me. She settled for a left hand with a gem over a piece of me. My mind's always as clear when she done climbing on the top of me. Really by the code, need you to keep the same energy. I've been this in my sleep, I got here off muscle memory. Self-love gone missing, I'm right back to claims of needing you. I give you that attention that you craving, got you refueled. For real, I hope you find some sort of peace and all that meditating. I've been looking for mine inside the blood, I'm self-medicated. Bad little vibe, ride or die, she on standby. 30 from 30, I'm not missing if I'm shooting mine. All I ever did was take the risk and learn in real time. How you think I'm up right now, been living on this type of time. All I ever did was take the risk and learn in real time. How you think I'm up right now, been living on this type of time. All I ever did was take the risk and learn in real time. The world outside's on fire, niggas dying and the rent is due. When the babies learn to cock and fire back before they even get to live their truth. I think somebody God got me right, cause I don't really look like what I made it through. People from the past wonder how. Somebody tell the realest, this live inside you too. I keep a bad little vibe, ride or die, she on standby. I'm 30 for 30, I'm not missing if I'm shooting mine. All I ever did was take the risk and learn in real time. How you think I'm up right now, I'm stuck. In this real good renaissance, all in on myself, I treat the movement like an enterprise. Take a look around, you think we made it to the end of times. How you think I'm up right now, been living on this type of time. I'm on the rail, I wrap it, I bag it, I pack it for sale. Got feeling on speed out, I hit me to chill. I give it a thrill, I put it on film. Facade get applaud, that ain't real. Come to my section and flex, we can tell. I got a show where she dipping them nails. I'm flipping my L's, I know they can tell. I did it too major, they hit me for favors. Been him since the cable was cut in the cradle. What's up, only right that I do it. Colossal until I'm a boss, so they want me to fail. Look, we prevail. I'm on your tail. Know that they talking, they telling them tales. Just know how to tell, that for the sale. Hey, they talk like they got it, but they need to stop it. I'm leading with logic, my heartbeat is frosted. I seen it, got optics I needed from Shawty. She mean with the top and it's obvious. They need him a target, I'm dodging their darts, make them reach for the stars. I'm dumping, I'm forcing the pun off the runs. I'm moving with caution, I'm saucing my nigga is nothing. From nothing to something they'll never be. Tycoon and I'm Dre with the thizzle face. I'm nothing my section has ever seen. Run the ice so I'm clutch, I don't need a screen. I'm Curry, I spit shit from 30 deep. Do the pin in the pad like it's surgery. She been curving you just to flirt with me. Totally tucked out, but the jewels out. I just in a home with a full mouth. I'm a rare breed when the moon out. I'ma stop playing by the rules now. I been ran plays, need a new route. Queen said she needs space in a new house. Mom told me that she pray for the kid every day. No wonder I'm getting paid for the tunes now. It been on they ass, bitch, I'm on the rail. I wrap it, I bag it, I pack it for sale. Got feeling, I speed out, I hit me to chill. I give it a thrill, I put it on film. This facade get applaud, that ain't real. Come to my section and flex, we can tell. Really outside with it. Run around with it. Run around with that. Run around with that.
Thank you so much for bearing with us, Mifflin, as we're starting to get down and staring down the barrel of Game 1. And a lot of what's been fun, I think, about this is, you know, we were looking at picks and bans a little bit earlier for those of you who didn't see it. There you go. The standard composition from the Gladiators, you know, a couple of the things that we've seen or are seeing out of them, new meta, definitely, you know, changes to the gods that bring it in. I'm going to ask you instead about this Pele, because it's one that you had just described as having like a new gameplay cycle, or at least a fresher gameplay cycle, right, because of her movement speed. And in the jungle, it feels like that could be something that we're expecting very often. Does she still get those benefits if she's in mid as well?
I would say it'd be easier to get those benefits. Again, for those of you that don't know, the third ability from Pele consumes fuel. You can recharge that fuel now by sending out Pyroclast, which is her first ability, that beam ability. So out of mid, that should allow you to stick to your enemy god a little bit more easily. You're going to have a consistent source of fuel for every fight you take. It's the wave. Just slam that wave and keep faster than everybody else. So is it going to be as easy to leverage, or you're not going to be maneuvering the jungle as much? Not nearly as much, but you will be able to still make those side lane rotations. You will still be allowed to play as a standard assassin mid does, which is bully the enemy, stay on top of them. And it's a play style that I think the Ferrymen are very much so accustomed to.
Does it work well against what I'm assuming is going to be a Marty, right? I mean, most of his survivability is on his ult, but we've seen him have relatively like standard, not really that bloody lanes.
Yeah, Marty is an interesting position, right? In that he is one of the safest hunters out of the mid lane because he doesn't really need to get close to the wave. Yeah. Acid Rain is such a long range ability, and by the time he's 2 slotted in build, he's one-shotting the wave and healing off the wave thanks to Soul Eater. So there's potential to do it, but it's certainly not easy.
Yeah, I know we've been talking about mid. I'm still a little worried about solo, but I guess at this point the only thing we can do is find out how it's going to shake out as we jump down to Game 1 with J-Mac and Trelly.
That's right. It is the kickoff back into the road to Worlds. It's Game 1, Match 1 with Styx Ferrymen and Gilded Gladiators. J-Mac, Trelly, and Doug joining us here for game number 1 between these two teams. It's been quite a while, Trelly, since we've seen a lot of competitive action. We saw Divisional Stars, we had Roll Stars, we had the Salt Tournament last week, and kind of our first look here on the new map. And as already being highlighted here by Doug, nothing but bountiful bow recipes on the left side here for the Styx Ferrymen. Gilded Gladiators, they sprinkle in a couple of gooseberries in the mix.
And it's just such a welcome sight to see, J-Mac, because I will tell you, in my rank games, the second I spawn in, I have to say, anyone cooking? I have to make some sort of joke to make sure everyone buys a recipe, because some people just be skipping over them. It's a free buff, and it's a great time. I think Bao, definitely one of the strongest, that extra cooldown for essentially just playing the game. These are the things you're going to do anyways. You don't really have to go out of your way to spend mana or do damage unless you're doing a no damage challenge, so you should be able to stack that up relatively easily, and then you get those cooldown resets. But we had the unique opportunity to talk to the Ferrymen just before this set, right? They came in for content day. I got to sit down and make a support tier list with Aror, which was eye-opening for me because we sat down and I said, all right, we have, X amount of time to make this list. Let's only hit the necessary gods. And he was like, all right, we can do all these Guardians. We'll do Horus. We'll do, maybe like a Naja Circuit. And then Guan Yu, and we should be good. And I said, excuse me? He's like, oh, yeah, we have to add Guan Yu. And I was like, no, Aurora, we're only doing support gods. That guy, he plays solo. And Aurora said, no, we will be putting Guan Yu on the support tier list.
Where did
because
he put him?
He said, I believe it was A. I believe A tier. And he said, we have to. He's really good right now. Trust me. So maybe the bountiful bow on top of the cooldown resets, on top of just everything Guan provides, is just too good for Aurora to pass up.
I guess so. So let's see how this Guan Yu support works out for Aurora, especially up against Cabrakan, who with this patch has seen a whole lot of change-ups to him. A lot of extra MP5 now thrown up into his base kit. But that's not as important as the other two big changes. Tremors, now on a 3-second cooldown, costs twice as much as it used to before, but comes off so much more often. And then that second ability, that Refraction Shield, giving him, a lot of mana back per instance of ability hit. Just feels like you can constantly keep that mana up charge.
Yep, I'm thinking about all the CC chain that Awesome Jake will be able to do to the members of the Ferrymen. He's able to just, use that stun combo and then throw down the Tremors and then repeat the process because of how long it can be channeled. But with that being said, you have to talk about survivability. I think that's something the Styx Ferrymen are going to be a bit concerned about, but Cyno is heading over to the left side. It looks like more so concerned about the shield buff. Not going to be easy to try and find a kill here. Stuart full HP. Awesome Jake. Does have that meditation as well. So more so just looking for the farm as opposed to the gank. But like I said, I mean, we got Baskin playing the Outwash solo. Sands of Time start means not that tanky. The beads is a necessity, right? I mean, I'm thinking if you got Kyrmi and Cxnnahh just consistently stacking their ultimates, Baskin is going to be put into a bad position at some point with those beads down. You got the benefit of being able to clear from pretty far away, but one nice ultimate, one good stun, and that's pretty much all you can really do. And so, Landis Outwash, you're going down.
And that was a conversation that was brought up on the desk about the Outwashes. You know, we see a lot of teleports is usually what you go for that soul lane. So do you risk a teleport as an Outwash when there's all that CC, or do you go the beads? And it seems that Baskin is of that mindset of, there's a lot of CC there. There's a Hunbats. Usually that's enough for me just to warrant getting some kind of purification beads if I'm not playing support. Even sometimes if I am playing support, it might be nice to pick those up. But well, let's see how Kyrmi and Cxnnahh maybe keep up the pressure in the soul lane, because that was kind of the topic of conversation that was brought up around Baskin during Divisional Stars, during Roll Stars, when he was playing this pick solo, was how good is he going to be able to have at least a good time over on that side? Is there going to be a lot of pressure his way? Are you going to be rotating over as soon as you hit level 5 on Kyrmi and Cxnnahh? So far, we haven't seen that rotation, but we'll have to keep our eyes maybe glued more to that side for the Gilded Gladiators to try and keep up that pressure. Yeah, I'm just thinking about the late game potential of the Styx Ferrymen comp. It's honestly pretty disgusting because you think, okay, Paul's playing Pele. There's going to be a lot of physical damage here with Guan, and Nike. So you don't have to worry too much about the magical. But Baskin does build a hybrid Outwash, so he will have plenty of damage online. And then, even if it was just CycloneSpin, Freya is an absolute threat with that magical damage late game. So it's not like you could just stack Fizz-D and hope for the best. Cyclone will be able to just melt through these targets later on. And with that, they've bridged the gap pretty easily because they've got the double warrior and the Pele mid that has really great pressure. I'm thinking about all of the immobile targets and that Snoopy and Stuart. Their ult is their best way to try and survive, but once that's down, I'm thinking there's a lot of CC immune ults that can just dive Stuart here. Cyno could pop the ult, dive in. Baskin should be able to hit his combo relatively easy. It's not like Stuart can jump away from it or try and juke those abilities. And then Cyclone and Aror. They've got the CC immune ults that just rain damage with the Cavalry charge and Valkyrie's discretion. Stuart's going to have to play very safe, which is what he's used to, right? He does play back, sort of farm up. But if you're just sitting back till late game and letting Cyclone get a free level 20, I'm not sure that's going to work out for you. Yeah, I think that scaling towards late game is really, I think you highlight best where it gets really dangerous for the Styx Ferrymen. You always talk about Freya being that late game hyper carry style of play, or style of god, I should say, but has made her early game so much easier these days, especially with kind of this inclusion of the Conduit gem as a startup. Seems to have kind of been her go-to. We saw a little bit of, I think, Bumba's Dagger pop up during the last couple of weeks, but outside of that, it really feels like Conduit Gem has kind of made its name for this Freya and immediately rushing now into that Telkine's ring just to kind of keep up that same pressure. So now, I guess I'll kind of pivot things over towards Cyno more than anything, because Cyno, in the past, has played this Nike a few times, hasn't had the greatest success whenever he was playing the Nike in the Surtur jungle, and is opting for anti-heal right away as opposed to cooldown reduction. So how do you kind of feel about Nike maybe just in her spot right now, or maybe kind of the build pathing of a Nike jungle? I mean, how do you what are your thoughts on Nike for Cyno?
Nike definitely not my favorite, but I think with a draft like this, Cyno knows his job. I mean, on this team, he pretty much goes in, forces relics, forces like any sort of escape or ultimate, and then lets the backline clean up, right? That's kind of the opportunity for the Ferryman to get active when Cyno blinks in, pops ult, and just tries to force things. So I don't hate it here. I think that as long as he's on point, as long as he's a little bit tanky, he should be able to force exactly what he needs so that Paul can clean up or CycloneSpin can come through. It just makes Aror and Baskin's job so much easier. That's the role Cyno plays, and he does it well. Could he have played it on any number of different characters? Of course, but that's not really his play style, right? I think he just wants to be relatively tanky and be able to get in. I was going to say and get out. More often than not, he doesn't get out, right? He just goes in, does damage, possibly dies, but creates that space. So like I said, not my favorite pick, but I think Cyno knows his delegation this game.
Well, the first of our recipes now completed by Baskin. The Bountiful Bow now fully stacked up itself, and you know, I see the small timer on there that what is it, 1.5 second cooldown reduction on that first ability you cast, with a few seconds of an ICD on there, 8 seconds before you can get it again. So gonna allow Baskin to keep spamming those abilities over in the soul lane. But I think maybe the more interesting startup item I want to kind of talk about here, you know, we mentioned Cyno's going for anti-heal, but it's actually Aror, Caduceus Club for him. First slot on the Guan Yu. CycloneSpin. Hit by an ultimate, but now might be Stuart in trouble. Cyno rotates over, beads away from the Olorun already. Cost Auror's ultimate to do so, but now Stuart down a defensive relic.
Yep, lose the beads. That's going to be it. And Cyclone holds on to it, right? The ultimate comes through from Awesome Jake. Was not phased. Knew that Cyno was on the way, and knew he had his ultimate as well, just in case things got dodgy. But that does open up Stuart to a possible gank. Has to watch out for any bit of CC coming his way. Tower line, probably going to be his best friend for the time being. And all it really does take is a Telecleanse Ring. I think that's plenty of damage to just say, hey, Stuart's really far under tower. He doesn't really have the ability to step forward. We could go in for a Gold Fury pull, try and bait in a team fight if possible. And heck, why not even look towards Awesome Jake? Both are completely viable. And Cyno already has that anti-heal to deal with the upgraded meditation that Jake purchased very early on in this game. He wants those cooldown resets. You talked about how Tremors is on a 3-second cooldown. Why not make it even lower?
No thank you. No thank you. That's already a bad ability to have to deal with. Snoopy's got to deal with Cyno and Paul here in the mid. Uses ultimate very early in the engagement. Off a believe an ultimate from Paul as a response tool. Now Aror and Cyclone. They get the whoop onto Jake, but 2 versus 3, not the most ideal to fight into. See Jake pop that first ability and immediately will turn tail and run as far as he can. But back over here into the soul lane with Baskin. He was kind of winning out early in these little matchups, these little boxing trades. Now mostly using the corpses for a lot of just health regeneration, but also that nice little bit of cooldown he gets from picking one up. So that's spam so heavily in this lane. Red buff invade, gets an ultimate away from Cyno, but Kyrmi teleports to the minion. A bad monkey toss bounce, puts him the wrong way. Aror trying to take down Stu, and instead turning his sights towards Jake. Gets the stun on Stu as Kana strikes first blood over on the opposite side. Now it's Jake trimmering away, gets the stun on Aror. It's constant boxing in the duo, but no one's coming up with the advantage this time. Gilded Gladiators, lower health bars. But Cyclone might want to keep going in. Finds the whoop on Stu. No beads. No ultimate. Kills his own beads as he takes down Jake. Cyclone strikes second in the game, but first one for the Ferrymen.
Very clutch rotation there from Kana. Cyno definitely would have been able to get out there if it wasn't from Ama coming through. Gets the first blood, and that's a great play. On the opposite side, though, that was a brawl that didn't seem like it needed to happen, right? After the first just exchange of abilities, Jake and Stuart realized they didn't like what they were seeing. They wanted to back up. Good to see exactly how clutch Kana was coming through to make sure Cyno goes down.
Yeah, it was a jump by Cyno, and that's pretty much all she wrote at that point. There's not much left for Cyno. Already used the ultimate to try and get away from Fear No Evil, but just a little caught out of position, trying to go for that red buff invade. I believe he does manage to steal it away, so takes that XP away from Snoopy. Keeps that buff away from him for the time being, but ends up costing him his life after.
I find it hard to believe that he didn't have time to blink there. I mean, from how much we saw he was out of combat, unless there was some tick damage from Snoopy, it seemed like Cyno would have been able to blink the Dazzling Offensive because the dash didn't connect. I thought Kana 2 dash immediately and was able to put him in combat. Wasn't able to. Unfortunate for Cyno for falling down there, but at the very least, Cyclone was able to get a kill on the opposite side of the map during all that. Get that kill onto Awesome Jake and make this duo lane even more impactful. And this is something I've noticed recently. There has been a lot more duo in the duo lane, right? Supports aren't rotating out at level 5. Hold that thought. Maybe Aror gets caught lazy back in here. Awesome Jake does not use the ultimate, but Kyrmi's got a purple buff in mind.
We'll see if the purple buff does get stolen away. Kyrmi standing by. Could be a 3 versus 2 fight for this one. Cyclone and Aurora, they're not going to give this one up for free, especially if Kyrmi's just by himself. Cyno's on the way. Kyrmi going to take a bit of damage. Whoop comes through. Kyrmi does end up jumping away, so purple buff. Maybe a minion or 2 taken away, but the rest of the camp and the buff does go the way of the Styx Ferrymen for CycloneSpin. And Joe, we didn't even get a moment to talk about new shaman camps popping up here, starting to give some of those augments over to the duo lane. Now, most often I would imagine for that duo lane for your hunter, probably purple augment. The most impactful one that you would want over there?
I personally am a green enjoyer. I like being just, you know, healthier as, oh my god,
Cyno caught out.
What?
Stunned in place. Now Aurora's got to try and rally himself out of there. Walks a little too far forward, doesn't get a chance to use the ultimate. And even Kyrmi gets to jump on out. Gilded Gladiators now at their second kill. First one onto Kyrmi, but second one that he's been a part of.
I'm amazed that Cyno jumps in there. Look at his build. I mean, what? You got brawlers, you have no beads, you have your ultimate. Sure, wasn't even able to get the Sentinel of Zeus off. Definitely a questionable play. Unfortunate, Cyno takes his second death there. But as I said, I mean, I personally enjoy the green. Being a little bit tankier helps me out a ton, but it looks like Cyclone consistently has been going for the red option. You have that extra healing, why not? That extra lifesteal baked into the kit is a Freya. So it does just employ a different level of gameplay, right? You can go for the blue augment, say, hey, I don't want to build as much cooldown, or just try and build towards your build strengths. Paul gets the beacon close, but was not able to cap it, and now the Gladiators have shown up. I'm not sure they can stick around this long, though.
Aror might be going down, caught in the tremor. Jump in by Kyrmi, slows him down, and raining hell from above. It's Snoopy who gets his first kill. Paul dives in with the ultimate, nearly gets taken down, and it's Cyno and Baskin to bail him out. Cyno takes down Kyrmi and a jump on top of Snoopy. He's got no beats, he's got no relics, he's got no ultimate, but he needs one more hit to go down. Baskin takes down Jake, who was standing by too long on the backside, and Cyno's just waiting for his cooldowns to jump in, and the Ren will strike his second kill of the game.
Yeah, had to be able to clean that one up, and he does. Huge turnaround there for Cyno. Let's talk about the 0-2 start. No longer able to pick up 2 kills there, and Paul makes it away with such little HP. I gave credit to Cxnnahh for that early rotation. Definitely got to give credit to Baskin here for this one. And with such an annoying build to try and deal with, by the way. The tablet is just constantly being stacked up. How many times have we panned over to Cxnnahh and see him just getting stunned by that fleeting breath? All the while, you got to worry about prophetic cloak stacks. I mean, Cxnnahh probably doesn't. I would assume physical is done at this point, but those magical stacks, Baskin is going to have to try and find, as we do see the Pyromancer started up. And this is going down for free. The Styx Ferrymen, great heads-up play. Push that gold even further in their lead.
Fight starts out, it was 2-1 for the Gladiators, now sitting 4-3, so a 3-1 swing for the Ferrymen. Pyro was started up on the right side. Gilded Gladiators try to sneak away the left side Gold Fury, but CycloneSpin shows up, ruins that party, and saves the objective for his team. You're right to highlight Baskin on this Opwash, Prophetic, Tablet, both of them about that halfway point or so on their stacks each way, but Gold Fury started once more by the Gilded Gladiators, Styx Ferrymen. They got to be quick to get there. Aror on the scene, but he's not going to be able to get there in time. Gilded Gladiators, they lose Pyro, but they grab a Fury for themselves.
Yep, Ferrymen thought once they got off the Fury the first time, they'd be able to back up, but with Cxnnah's extra buff, that damage, that can help you just burn through a structure. It seemed like the Ferrymen were privy to that fact. They knew it was being done, but they just couldn't get there in time. They were too far away. So now with both of these objectives being down, it's going to be a while before we see any real fighting unless you try and group up with that runic bomb. You could tell that Aror was holding on to it. That's the only reason I see these teams squatting up and looking for a team fight anytime soon. Especially with, we already highlighted it, Baskin. He's building towards late game, right? He's got his tablet, he's got his cloak. He doesn't want to really get involved until these items are stacked up. And CycloneSpin, I imagine he's in the same boat, right? This Freya wants one more ring before she feels confident fighting just about anyone on the map. So probably going to just be waiting for that. In the meantime, the Ferrymen lose a bit of a objective there. They had the vision. They unfortunately just make a bad play. And in this case, the Gilded Gladiators, props to them for capitalizing on it. I think most teams would probably go for that pull, realize it's warded, back off, and give up. But with Cxnnah's extra damage, it's as free as it gets.
Yeah, sometimes, and it's mentioned all the time, really, is that your solo laner really does kind of dictate what you want to do as a team. Is your solo laner still chilling over there? Okay, we're probably not going to touch an objective anytime soon. Your solo laner over by Gold Fury? Yeah, we're probably going to take it at that point, but maybe for the Ferrymen they thought, okay, yeah, we stopped them one time. That's it. They're not going to touch it again, but Cxnnahh rotates over and says, nope, we're going to go ahead and grab that objective. A little brief pause in the action here as we try and get back into game number 1 with our players, but kind of talking about the momentum of this game so far. It's a very slow pace kind of start out here. Really didn't see any action break out until about those level 5, 6 points. Things are still kind of slowing down a little bit here as the objectives are going through. But how does this pace kind of start kicking off? Is it once we get that first Titan spawn to start marching down that we really kind of see maybe the state of things ramp up? Or is this really kind of just waiting for this late game to hit in before we really start to see things bump up?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Titans spawn in, teams group up, kill them, and then move on with their day. I don't think that's going to be the real inflection point here. It seems like late game is still definitely what we're leaning towards, and with both objectives gone, it's probably going to be pretty much mirrored. Gilded Gladiators let that Pyro go down, head over to the left side of the map. This time I assume the Styx Ferrymen will be on time and actually try and defend that Gold Fury, but either way, with Shoguns and the Ama passive, Kana's going to make sure that this double ADC composition burns through that Gold Fury as quickly as possible.
Baskin goes for a Pridwin last item, so now full CDR for the already annoying Opwash. A lot of tankiness to go with it. Kyrmi on the run, Baskin trying to rotate in from behind, get some good damage onto Snoopy, empties the Crypts as well to get the ultimate out of the Marty, but it's Cyno being running down Kyrmi. Kyrmi under the tier 1 tower just to get back to safety. Jake in danger, jumping, gets the double knockup. Fear no evil's not enough to save Jake. Paul knocks him down with the rest of the Ferrymen, and the tier 1 tower will go down right after.
Tier 1, that's for sure. But what about this tier 2? It seems to be something the Ferrymen might be interested in, but they decide better against it. And they retreat. I wouldn't have hated the dive, but I think that is the smart call. Let's not go too hard. CycloneSpin still has some farm. He hasn't grouped up with us. Without a true additional ADC, because Paul, of course, is on a melee character, it's not easy to try and burn through a tower like that. Definitely the smart call just to retreat. But I love that play. I mean, a little bit too little too late. The Fear No Evil might have been enough to try and create some space there. Paul already ulted, hit a massive volcanic lightning. And unfortunately, Awesome Jake was just too far forward. It's into the scrap for now. I want to take a look at the relics. Cyno doesn't have beads, but is getting a bit tankier. Has the Mail of Renewal third item, so Kyrmi, I don't think it's going to be able to pick him off for free in the jungle off of one ultimate, especially because Kyrmi has 2.5 items. Seems like does not do much damage right now on this Batz. Aror just getting tickled by that overhand smash.
Yeah, not just Mail of Renewal. A second CAD club? I mean, on Aurora makes sense. He's gonna stand by, pop his heal with everybody, but for Cyno, feels maybe a little out of place seeing that onto him. Is that kind of just like, hey, I'm gonna stand by Cyclone, so he's gonna get his extra, or I'm gonna dive with Paul and that gives him more heal? I mean, why the second CAD club for Cyno?
I was hoping you weren't gonna ask me because I saw it be built and I just kind of sent it to Cyno Tech, you know, like we're just gonna accept that he wants to be a bit tanky. But I think you're right. If Auror's not there the whole time, Cyno still can give that buff to his team, and also he just wants to be a hybrid Nike, man. He just wants to be a little bit survivable, pop a slow, and do enough damage to be threatening. Kyrmi actually blinks in there off the monkey toss. Questionable play. Takes a little bit more damage than he was hoping. Maybe didn't know how close Aror was to try and help him out, so definitely does retreat. But CycloneSpin makes the rotation. This Pyromancer will be as dead as quickly as it spawns in unless the Gilded Gladiators push forward.
Gladiators got to get on the scene quick. Jake and Kyrmi nearby. Jake not super tanky though, went for damage second slot, and Pyromancer goes freely over to the Ferryman. Hardly any fight back from the Gladiators as Cyno stands at the front line on this hybrid Nike. Takes about a third or so of his HP, but it's all being healed back by Aror. As the second beacon spawns up, the Gladiators get a full 5-man grouping over towards this mid lane.
But, just like last time, Gladiators heading right for that Oni Fury. Important stuff to try and go for. Kyrmi leaps away. I was thinking Paul might have some ability to try and chase down, but a double woo from Cyclone is trying to start this engagement. The Ferrymen can't decide. Are we going to defend this Fury? Are we looking for a pick? Are we just going to grab the Beacon for free? It seems like that is the case. Remember, Beacon also did get some changes recently. No longer going to give that extra movement speed, but the damage will certainly help out as you're able to capture that one. So the Styx Ferrymen feeling a little bit better about their team fight presence as they go into this Oni Fury. And yeah, CycloneSpin's going to start it up. This is known by the Gladiators. Are they going to step forward though?
Jake, first one forward, can't find the sun until he gets the Cyno at the end, but empty the Crypts by Baskin will zone the whole team away. Fury now reset by the Styx Ferrymen as Jake goes back in. He wants to get Paul, but he just can't find the damage, can't find the CC for it. And now Cyno on the run. Huge damage returned back by Snoopy. The health bars are low on the Ferrymen. Aurora is caught out inside the sanctified field. And Jake gets the revenge kill he's been waiting for. Kyrmi teleports in, but immediately has to jump back out. Health bar is a bit worse for wear on both sides of the field.
Yeah, Kyrmi makes a huge play there. All the while when Baskin use empty the Crypts to try and split up that team fight, Kyrmi blinks in, is able to get both carries, Paul and CycloneSpin off the Fury, and force out Relic just to scare them. Awesome Jake almost catches out Paul, But what he does do is force the ult defensively. Volcanic Lightning is down. Now Paul's not a non-factor in this fight. That's enough for the Gilded Gladiators to want to siege forward. They're able to pick up Aror and get the Oni Fury. That's going to be a good look. I was wondering if Stuart was going to head over towards FG and see if they were going to try and go for a cheeky play, but he heads on back to left lane. Feels a little bit more confident about his farm and just wants to grab that shield buff, which I think is the correct call in this instance. Has some rings, yeah, has some extra damage, but Rod of Tahuti still could be a massive power spike for this Olorun. That extra crit damage could be a big deal, and those auto attacks are going to be absolutely swinging if he's able to get that item online. So I think that's probably the smart call instead of grouping up on the right side of the map.
Maybe some action here against Cxnnahh. Still fairly tanky on the Ama, so he'll be just fine for the time. Kyrmi even standing by, making sure that he'll be A-okay. But kind of wanted to go back to the beacon. You know, mention no longer movement speed. I think it's an important factor. Movement speed's now gone from the stacks of that Stygian beacon. Instead, it's 1% power, and instead of the 5% structure, it's now 4%. And that's because, depending if this game goes long enough, would take almost 40 some odd minutes to get to that point, we can see a second Titan Siege. Similar to what we normally get around that 22. We can see one a little bit later now, because there's 2 rotations of it. Kyrmi goes in with a Fear No Evil. Baskin CC, but a big knockup by Cyno gets 3. But there's all 5 of the Gladiators here. It takes a lot to take down Baskin and Cyno. But the Gilded Gladiators do so, and they get both those kills over to Stuart, the one that you want to have with those kills. But in the meantime, the Styx Ferrymen, they're going to take down the tier 2 tower in mid and maybe work on knocking down this Phoenix. Paul and Cyclone not going to fully commit to this one. They get the bird down to a quarter, but that's left open. Fire Giant, the Gladiators 3-stack, try and work on it, but they just don't have the damage to take it out yet.
Yeah, but Cxnnahh was able to defend and then back in and teleport to try and help out with this Fire Giant. All the while, you got to figure out, are Paul and Cyclone going to go in? It seems like it. Aror here with a little bit of damage, a little bit of shred. Here comes Paul.
Paul crashes right in, and Cyclone finds a double whoop, and now it's Jake who's in danger. He's taking up the fire the whole time. Cyclone takes down 1, and he's running right to the back line. Up in the air, and 2 down in the ground. Cyclone still chasing out another one as Kyrmi jumps in on top, trying to get the damage in the double dose right back to Cyclone, but he's fighting right back in. Kyrmi takes him down before he can get a third. But now with Paul back on the scene, Aror is chasing him down, finds the stun onto 1, and it's 3 on a pick for the Ferrymen.
Paul still wants to try and chase this one down. Kyrmi does leap away. Don't lazy back there. Paul's still around. He's going to have to let him go. And that's a beautiful defense. 3v5 all the while, because 2 people had to go back and defend that Phoenix. It just plays so perfectly there. The Ferrymen recognize, hey, this fight's over. We lost Baskin, we lost Cyno. Let's try and split up the map. Because the Gilded Gladiators responded to that Phoenix, they didn't have anyone to tank up the Fire Giant. They didn't have enough consistent damage without a crit ADC. And now Fire Giant goes the way of the Ferrymen. Sorry, Cyclone, we're not waiting for you. 8 seconds, but the Empty the Crypts is here. And that's going to be the first Fire Giant of the game before the Titans even spawn in.
And the Beacon's not even ready to be capped for its 3rd and final time yet. We'll be here soon, about 30 seconds. But talk about a turnaround by the Ferrymen, losing out on their previous fight. Saying, okay, well, we lost 2 on the right side. What can we do? Well, Paul and Cyclone say, okay, well, if you're going to all send all 5 to the right, we'll just push up mid, take a tier 2, most of a Phoenix's health. And the Gladiators answer is, okay, well, if you're going to send everybody over there, we'll work on Fire Giant. And then they couldn't even have the damage to do Fire Giant fully.
All the while, the big misplay is sending 2 back. I mean, it's a Freya. That Phoenix did not get burned quickly. All you do there if the Gladiators is send just Cxnnahh back. He stands there menacingly. Once Paul and Cyclone leave, you teleport back to FG, you get it for free. Or, if you don't want to make a risky call, give up your mid-bird. You're about to get Fire Giant. You can group up and just push through mid-Phoenix. But sending 2 back just completely split up the DPS, and now the Gilded Gladiators are in a sketchy position. You got to deal with Titan pushing up left. Primal Fury has gone down. The Ferrymen have FG on 4. And as far as relics go, once CycloneSpin gets his back up in 50 seconds, they'll be rearing to go. The Styx Ferrymen are okay with looking for a scrap, but awesome Jake and Cxnnahh deep in the backline, possibly looking for a fight. Did Cyno call this out? My guess is no.
Monkey toss hits. Cyclone goes up in the sky right before Fear No Evil, but on landing, he's got a whole slew of Gladiators chase him out. The shell gets him out from the wall, out of the sanctified field, but right into the fire. Stuart and Snoopy combo to take down the carry of the Ferrymen. Jake's not giving up. He chases them out away from tier 1 tower so the Gladiators can take one down. And now the Titans push up as we meet with a 4v5.
Looks like they're still sieging forward though. Cyno jumps in. Awesome Jake now has to retreat because Conda's on the right side of the map. There's an ult in from Paul. Here comes the blink in from Cyno. The Ferrymen won this fight.
Cyno slows down too, jumps on top of Stu and takes him down. It's Paul who gets the double kill, and Kyrmi at half HP as Cyno waltzes right through the tier 1 tower, gets the jump on top of Snoopy, and the rend onto Kyrmi. Jukes out the last one, but the barrier is there for the kill, and Paul picks up his 3-piece. That's 5 in a row for the mid laner of the Ferrymen. And a near deicide on the Gladiators. It's only Cxnnahh left alive.
They do have to go back and deal with the Titan. That's going to take a while to try and burn through without Cyclone here. All the while, Cyclone should be able to defend the right side of the map. What a back and forth play. And I got to be honest, J-Mac, none of it's clean. I mean, CycloneSpin has no relics. I called it out before the fight begins. He's at tier 1 tower. Cyno sees Jake and I believe Cxnnahh in the jungle way behind his team and then goes to do back camps. And I'm guessing Cyclone never got the message, hey, there's 2 tanks behind me, I should leave. So he gets caught out immediately before his relics come up. The Gilded Gladiators get a free pick and then end up staying too long. Now the Ferrymen are going in for the bird. This is free.
Runic bombs were available for the Ferrymen. There's another wall from Awesome Jake, but he's at half health. Cxnnah's going to try and bail the team out. He finds a triple stun. Turn around to Aror is good. Stuart, credit for that kill. And Awesome Jake gets the stun onto Cyno's low. Sanctified Field pop back. But Paul is stuck inside the field. He has to use every one of his relics, but those aren't even enough to bail him out. Kyrmi gets the shutdown kill on Paul, and all the while now it's CycloneSpin split pushing.
Everyone is just split pushing this game away. I like the call there. The Styx Ferrymen, as far as I'm concerned, yeah, it's not like you can lose. Your Titans pushed up here. The Gilded Gladiators have so much time to try and push out. So get the bird, die for it. Who really cares? It's not like this Fire Giant push was going to net anything else. The Gilded Gladiators did understand we need to get a pick here, or at least one. They're able to grab Aror and Paul. Good looks there for the Glads. But all the while, man, messy gameplay from both squads. It's clear that the Styx Ferrymen understand that they're not in a scary position just yet. They're not in a, hey, we can't mess up or we'll lose position, so they're allowed to play their lead this way. Overstaying their welcome just a bit and giving that shutdown over towards Paul. 5-0, now 5-1. But hey, you got a full build Pele, Heartseeker online, Power Pots in tow, didn't have beads, so it's probably going to die regardless. And you get your left side Phoenix. I'm thinking that's going to be a pretty big win there for the Ferrymen.
Now we see Baskin deviate away from his defenses, start going towards a little bit more offense for the back half of his kit.
Still not stacked up.
Ethereal and that Soul Reaver now available. Now Prophetic Stack, still only at 26. Needs a few more magical damage shots. I mean, to be fair, it's hit Jake or hit Stu. Stu's usually so far back at that point. Kyrmi low in HP. Jake gets the wall onto Paul, but it's a quick shell.
Wow.
To try and bail out from that corridor. Styx Ferrymen on the run, but look at the damage output that Paul's having. Just one Pyroclast, one stray shot from him is already starting to chunk through some of these health bars.
And that's the thing. Awesome Jake was not ulting in and blinking in offensively. That was definitely, hey, I gotta save Kyrmi, so I'm gonna push up. But Aror panicked. He used that Phantom Shell. He was worried. He thought the team was coming through. So that ends up being a huge win for the Glads. Now that that Phantom Shell's gone, and remember, Paul doesn't have beads, you're gonna be a sitting duck. I think Kyrmi's got a pretty easy target here, and you wait for Awesome Jake's ult to be back up. I'd be looking for this Pele for sure. At the very least, try and body block that Volcanic Lightning so you know it's coming through off the blink. Could be an opportunity to try and find a kill here. But the Styx Ferrymen no longer looking towards fire. They're pushing forward. They want to bait in a fight. They're going to go for FG again, but if I learned anything from the last time, they're probably looking for the scrap.
A lot of damage dealt to fire, already at half. Gilded Gladiators,
oh my goodness.
He's getting eviscerated by Paul. Baskin steps up with Cyno to try and deal with Jake. Takes about a quarter of the support's health, but the Fire Giant's the one that is falling down. It goes over to the Styx Ferrymen and a full push back in now. The Gilded Gladiators, they cannot stand their ground, not with Cxnnah as low as he was. They have to give up Fire Giant and go back to defend because that Phoenix is about to come back up on left.
Man, you'd think, and this is what I was talking about, late game builds, something to consider. Paul just destroys Cxnnah. So the first thing you do is think, okay, I saw the Berserker shield. Surely you went into more Fizzy. No. Cxnnah was not worried about Paul. Cxnnah should be worried about Paul. those gooseberries need to go, and I need to see some physical defense or maybe even like a Mantle of Discord, something to help the survivability of this Amaterasu. Because stepping forward, yeah, Aror and Cyno aren't going to be that much of a threat, but Cxnnahh just realized how much DPS this Pele is going to have, and I wouldn't be surprised if a 3K pot's coming soon. I mean, he got a power pot a solid 10 minutes ago. He's got to be close to getting that 3K.
Well, where does Cxnnahh sit for gold in hand? Well, he did sell the gooseberries finally, but it's back to more hybrid defense. Gets a little bit of physical with the Pridwin, but maybe not as much physical as you would like going up against Paul. We'll see how it pans out for him in the next team fight, because he is just getting decimated by Paul's damage at this point. Even looking back at the player damage, you can see Kyrmi goes in up against Baskin, takes him down to half. It's a full dive on a Baskin, but look at all the health that he gets back from the shields. Awesome Jake is the one who instead pays for the sins of his team. Stuart is low, but Stuart's still alive. Cyclone cannot close the gap for the kill on one. It gets beads and Aegis from Snoopy. That was 2 pulse shots that nearly took Snoopy out.
Yeah, but that ultimate should have killed Stu. I'm amazed Cyclone wasn't able to find that one. Mid-bird down, left side Phoenix should be able to get defended here, but no one's stepping in front of these auto attacks. The Gilded Gladiators, they're just giving this one up as well. There's low health bars here, but they're going back to the Titan.
There's a full commit onto Baskin. They got him to half health, and he turns around with shield 1, shield 2, says, cool. What do you have left in the gas tank? Nothing? The rest of the team can push in and maybe a pick onto Kyrmi. Whoop is good, but Kyrmi's got jump off cooldown. He's able to go back and get to the fountain. Still 10 seconds till Jake is back. And Blink is available for the support of the Gladiators. The Styx Ferrymen keeping mind on these cooldowns, but also the Gladiators keeping mind on Paul's damage.
Paul gets 2 of those, man. Kyrmi has to back, and that was 1 Pyroclast. What are you going to do? Go in again when he's just got more? Has to retreat. Pyromancer. Gonna be going down for absolute free. Sure, you can get a Runic Bomb, but not like you need it for Phoenixes because those are all dead. The Gilded Gladiators have to just bunker down under base. And I gotta highlight the fact that Baskin ate that ult for breakfast. I mean, there is 3 damage items here for this outwash. Did not beads. He sat there and ate the whole Fear No Evil, ended up beadsing afterwards. He could have went in and tried to use it, but just decided against it. It's just a little bit crazy there that, you know, once the teleport came through, Kyrmi found a pretty good engage, but the Gilded Gladiators end up losing that fight off it because you can't overextend that far.
5,000 damage, by the way. That's how much Baskin got in that last little skirmish. Whether it be all at once there with the Empty the Crypts in there, but from point of walk up to Phoenix and walk away, 5K for him, about 3,000 for Paul. They were both sitting at 31,000 damage going into that fight. Kyrmi slowed down by Cyno, forced to use the ultimate defensively to bail himself away from Cyno, but Cyno's going to keep this chase up because Aror is now on the way. Doesn't get any stun after dismounting from the cavalry charge. But that's 2 ultimates down from the Ferryman, but getting Kyrmi's the big one. Jake's going to blink in, but he doesn't fire off the ult. He just blinks in and walks back.
Yeah, blinking in for Baskin's ult. Not the greatest trade, because it will be back up here shortly, but at the very least, you get Empty the Crypts down, have an easier time trying to defend your Titan. That's the only reason the Ferrymen are here, right? They don't have Fire Giant anymore. There's no Phoenixes to grab. The only reason you're at Phoenix Land right now is because you're playing for the Titan, or you're playing for a pick. Relic still down for Snoopy. He has to stay pretty far back unless he's got Death from Above available and doesn't want to use it defensively. But how much damage do the 6 Ferrymen have all-in-wise? Not much, right? CycloneSpin doesn't have consistent DPS, just body block those pulse autos. Paul, if he ults in, he better be getting a kill or he could be a sitting duck. I don't think the 6 Ferrymen want to stick around here for too long.
From Jake, gets the shell from Aror, but it's now Jake being turned and burned on Fear No Evil to try and bail him out as Cyclone's in the sky. Cxnnahh and Kyrmi team up to try and take down the duo lane of the Ferryman, but it's not working out for the rest of the team because Paul has already taken down Jake. Kyrmi trying to fight back, and Cyclone domes him with 1 auto attack. And now it's 3 of the Gladiators on defense. The Styx Ferrymen walking in, 5 versus 3, Empty the Crypts. The Titan and the Gladiators stand no chance. The Ferrymen take game 1.
Didn't look like a great fight at first, but if you keep splitting up like that, the carries to the backline, Snoopy and Stuart could not step forward. Paul was too much of a threat, and because of that, awesome Jake and Cxnnahh just get cut off. Beautiful play there from the Styx Ferrymen. It was pretty back and forth objective-wise until that first Fire Giant. And even after the Fire Giant, there was some overextension. There was some some lingering plays. That Phoenix push, though, is really for me when it changed up. When the Ferrymen clearly lost the fight. They lose Baskin, they lose Cyno. Why not go in for the mid Phoenix? See what happens. Go for the split push. And then Paul and Cyclone and Aror just stop FG and get it for themselves 3v5. Insane plays.
I think that's really kind of that turnaround moment for the Ferrymen. It was a little bit back and forth. It felt really even. And the Gladiators make that one little misplay, and the Styx Ferrymen are just able to capitalize immediately after that one.
Yep.
Take control of the game and then move themselves to a better spot. And Baskin has been trying to force this opwash to work the last 3-4 times that he did.
got one, man.
Oh, man, he got one win. But it was a great look for him on this one. A bit of a change-up on the build style, but it really seemed to work well for him out there. A little bit of defense and a whole lot of damage. Styx Ferrymen take game number 1, but it's a best of 5. We got plenty of SMITE still to stick around, so make sure you stick by. We'll be back for game 2 right after this break.
The party's this way. Let's liven things up, shall we? Come now, child. Dance with me. Well, I've never been to a party like this. Just my style.
Welcome back, everyone, as a 1-0 lead for the Ferrymen sinks in. But as you just saw, there's a gym sale going on. In fact, Mifflin, and this is important for you as well, this is the last day of this gym sale. So if you're trying to spend, which I know you always are, make sure that you get in there. and do it while you can. It's going to give you gyms for a lot cheaper. 33% off gyms. Again, today's the last day, but that also includes things like the 50% off mood chest, as well as a 2x worshiper for partying up together. So if you want to get in, for us, you just move us to a second monitor if you have it. If not, I guess you can minimize it and listen in. Just make sure you don't close this tab, but also make sure you capitalize on getting the 33% off gyms while you can. But it's Gore's Mifflin. It's Ferrymen up 1-0. They partied up pretty well in that game, I would say. The back and forth nature of a lot of the fights, kill count wise, was there, and even for gold it felt like there was a little bit of a tug of war, but then eventually we got to see CycloneSpin say, wait a minute, I'm Freya, and it's 28 minutes into the game, and that kind of made a very solid point.
Yeah, I was so concerned in P's and B's in the initial, right, of who's dealing with Baskin, who's going to deal with Baskin, who's rotating over and make sure that Opwash doesn't come into the team fight and absolutely dominate. And I had fallen into the same trapping as the Gladiators. I had forgotten about CycloneSpin on that Freya. So it wasn't for lack of trying that Baskin only, I believe, dies maybe twice that game or maybe once. There was a lot of rotations over to the soul lane, but for the most part, it just resulted in Nike dying. And here's the thing about Cyno on his warrior jungles. He's used to dying on them. That's it almost feels like at times what it's drafted for. It's just that bridge selection. So he does his job perfectly, keeping Baskin afloat. Nobody looks at CycloneSpin, who is essentially allowed to free farm until it becomes a massive threat. I was actually hanging out with one of our admins saying, man, every auto attack looks like a polyproc right now from CycloneSpin, but he doesn't even have it. They're just all hitting that hard. And he's free casting these team fights. So often the team fight was disjointed from the Gilded Gladiators. Did we see a Sanctified Field on top of a Fear No Evil even once this game? I'm not so sure. Felt like a lot of those Fear No Evils were used defensively as self-peel, or maybe he was diving on his own and didn't quite have the resources to do it because Bees and Aegis were still available. Even on that last team fight in the Fountain Room, essentially, it's Kyrmi in the back line, gets, I believe, a 3-man Fear No Evil, and then all of his carries are in Fountain and licking their wounds. So just not quite the amount of teamwork I think the Gilded Gladiators needed to leverage this high CC composition. Nobody was making use of each other. It was all a lot of individual play. And if you want to take it to an individual level, CycloneSpin's going to drop 22,000, Paul's going to put up 40, and Baskin's also going to put up 40. Good luck matching those numbers.
And I know we were looking at it in the back, though, but no real itemization from the Gladiators to deal with the shielding. And, like, if it was just Nike, maybe that's something you could be like, you know what, Cyclone's 3 and 4. But then Baskin goes for the Pridwin that's giving him a massive shield as well. It just feels like there was
no
nothing to
Sunders
deal with
either.
that. And then on top of that, you had Guan Yu healing. It just felt like there was so much health bar and health healing to deal with. They just didn't have enough towards the late game to handle it.
Yeah, I agree. Ankh would have gone a long way there. Again, Ankh not only going to deal with some of that shielding, but also deals with a lot of that healing. Didn't even talk about Freya. She's got some of the best lifesteal auto attacks in Smite, so a lot of that sustain, although not exactly what that composition was built for, saw a whole lot of value because it didn't go addressed.
Well, we'll find out how they adjust things here in picks and bans for Game 2, as the Gladiators will be taking first pick over from the Ferrymen. So 1-0, again, best of 5. So you need 2 more wins here if you're the Ferrymen. Plenty of opportunity for the Gladiators to shift some things up. Last time we saw Raijin, we saw this Xxnnahh, more focused bans on the other side. The Sun Wukong, the Jormungandr, some of those maybe still being a very, I guess, strong suit in the solo lane. Some maybe
prioritized for sure.
Kind of having a hangover from before. We'll find out how much they last there. Chernobog was also on that list. And so is there anything, I mean, from last game that immediately stands out to you that is either a Gladiators must first pick or a must ban to make sure the Ferrymen don't get it again?
Oh, man, I think getting rid of the Xxnnahh, of course, is going to be a great answer to the Ferrymen for the rest of the year. Keep Aror off of that pick. It just elevates him and the rest of the team so well. having taken away the Freya, I think you've taken away the keystone to the previous composition. So much of what was allowed to the Ferryman was brought, even if it wasn't reflected in damage numbers, by the represented threat that is Freya. Oh, we have to address him, or he will be doing the 40,000 that we're seeing from both Paul and Baskin. So already a good job from the Gilded Gladiators in forcing the Styx Ferrymen, I think, to run a new style of composition. The only other thing I would maybe put my eyes on is that assassin out of mid. Felt like Paul was getting away with a lot of his own aggression, but with Set and Pele still available, feels like you've missed the opportunity to prevent that from coming from Paul.
And it's that weird balance where like Paul proves that Pele in mid works, but
We've seen it before too. I think Ven did it a few times.
Oh yeah, Ven did do it a few times. Man, I was gonna go on about how Paul's just really good.
I mean, you could. You're
yeah,
right.
For the most part, if a god works for Paul, you have to wait until you see somebody else do it to make sure that it's actually good there and not just Paul being Paul and a little bit stronger than you. We've got Pele joining that, so 2/5 of the team is going to change up at least for the Ferryman. Sun Wukong and Raijin, again, who's one that I maybe would have anticipated for the Ferryman to hold out on because Paul has played it a ton. But instead they banned that. And Charon finally gets locked in. We saw it a little bit during the Salt tournament, but I think it was over in solo. This will be our first look at seeing what he can do in pro play. And so Mifflin, what do you think of Charon?
I think that god is incredibly strong, talking about Charon.
Yeah.
He feels just so difficult to kill, and how his kit is laid out, a lot of what he does works on both attack and retreat. The dash having the CC on through enemies, the silence being on as short of a cooldown as it is, the global presence from his ultimate, he's high CC output, insane survivability. That is one of the primary strengths of Charon, is that he's going to go into the team fight. He's going to be the first one to make contact. He could take hits the entire time, and he'll probably be the last one out as well. He's just so survivable, so annoying, high disruption factor. He is, to me, just a very annoying pick. And what has every support player in the SPL said? If you think I'm annoying, I'm doing my job. So Charon, I think, will fit that playstyle very well. Artemis getting drafted this high in the composition, though, for the Ferryman is surprising to me. I know that CycloneSpin likes this pick. I've seen some of the builds coming back. Crit seems to be slightly resurgent, or you could just go for a full attack speed pen build, and Artemis is good at that as well. But I am still curious. She still has a lot of the issues that she did previously. They're lacking mobility. It's pretty easy for the most part to avoid Caledonian Boar. If you've got a standard leap or a self-banish or even a dash, you've got a little bit of time to get out of that range. So I'll be curious to see how this one plays out. But considering he had just played Freya, I'm thinking he wants to try and play this the exact same way. Oh, I'll get to the late game. I'll have an insane attack speed stem, and I'll just be a sentry for my team. And when I say that, I'm talking about like a turret, not the ward. He's just going to do a ton of damage and just essentially be another threat that the Gladiators have to concern themselves with. And this is something we've seen from the Ferrymen so much. When they have one massive threat that's immobile, they'll generally draft more of them. And it's pick your poison. Which one of us do you want to have free casting at the end of the team fight?
The Ferrymen, as we continue to chase down their draft, I want to talk about that one, all right? I'm going to get your thoughts on that one. Ares recently saw some buffs, right? Makes sense that he's maybe going up towards the top. Plus, like you said, if you're going to be annoying, might as well go for it. Was locked in with that Artemis. Olorun Marty was the answer from the Gladiators. And then, of course, I was talking about Raijin being the second most played god for Paul, so it makes sense for him to then just go to the one he's played the most, which is this Hebo. So that's going to be locked in for them. Bands that run through: Raven, Mercury from the Ferryman, other side Nike and the Najah. But Arachne, Mifflin, banned out by the Ferryman in game 1 and locked in this time. Some changes recently. Is Arachne actually something, like, is she able to be played right now? Is she viable?
Yes.
In a game that you're planning on winning. That should be the asterisk on there.
I think Arachne is in a pretty good spot right now. How her changes have affected her playstyle has, and I'm going to make a lot of OG players roll their eyes and perhaps let out a sigh here. It reminds me of original Loki, in that your entire gameplay loop is that you need to make contact once with an auto attack, just one time. Because with her new second ability, for those of you who aren't in the know and how Arachne had been changed, the second ability, the webs, the stun, now gives you the attack speed beyond the stun itself. And you only need 2 auto attacks to connect that stun. it's I believe a 0.5 auto progression, or maybe a 0.5 into a 1, which means she is instantly connecting the stun. If she is connected to one auto attack, she is guaranteed the second. So all she needs to do is make contact. You're stunned, you're taking dot damage, she's healing, and she's going to do a few more auto attacks while you're CC'd. If you're dead, she'll walk away. If she thinks you're going to turn on her, the ultimate is perhaps the best escape tool in Smite.
Yeah.
It is that good. You're up into the air immediately. They've extended the range on the leap. You're going to land into a massive slow, so if people are chasing you, they have to walk through a slow. It is essentially the get out of jail free card. I like to call it Beads Aegis built into the god, right? I mean, that's for the most part how you're using it. It's pretty rare that you'll see them use it to aggress, maybe to finish a kill, chase someone over a wall, but you're not initiating with that ultimate. It really is a safety tool. So Arachne in a very interesting spot right now. My concern, though, is how does she scale into the late game? How is she going to feel in a team fight environment? That's always been the weakness of Arachne, is that when there's more than 1 or 2 people around you, she can really tend to struggle. So if the Gilded Gladiators are playing well around Sanctified Fields, or if Charon's playing Disruption in the backline, I could see Arachne struggling to actually secure some of these kills.
And locked on, with an Artemis of all things. Like a couple of gods we don't see often for years at this point. Artemis every now and then dabbles in the
Both
meta.
in the first 30 as well.
Yeah, so impressive to see them.
It's actually an OG comp from the Ferrymen, except for Ama.
Oh my god, it really is. Wow.
Any Season 1 fans out there?
Yeah, that's what the Ferrymen are going to bring. And you know what? That's something that we talk about with this team. The tenure, right? The fact that they've been playing, admittedly, the Arachne that they would have been playing back in Season 1 and the Arachne that they would play loading into this game are very different Arachne styles of play.
Completely different.
In fact, a whole different kit if you look at it. But still something that is going to be very fun to watch. The question, I guess, is how do these gods, especially the ones that we don't see, but play into the Gladiators? I mean, you mentioned Charon. His job is to be annoying. We just saw Olorun and Marty have a pretty successful game up until the very end. And then the Jorm and the Nemesis, 2 gods that have been, I mean, not necessarily mainstays. Jorm has definitely risen up, and he bounces up and down depending on the meta for solo lane, but Nemesis is like almost always there to help deal with tanks, and it feels like that's built to burn through Ares.
Yeah, I think you've hit it. It's not just Nemesis that burns through tanks. I think this entire composition from the Gilded Gladiators is built from conception just to deal with the front line. First guy I make contact with needs to die. I think that's the entirety of the conversation on the Gilded Gladiators. Drop Olorun ult. Have Nemesis ult there. If that's not enough defense shred, Martichoras is there as well. You've got essentially a full line of CC. Knock up from Jormungandr, roots or silences from Charon. You can lock down the first guy you see very well. And the first guy you're seeing for the most part is going to be this Ares, who is very susceptible to feast or famine games. You can have an Ares that drops to 17-0, he does immense damage, and he's also building support items and has the power thanks to the auras. Or you have an Ares that died at level 3, and then 4, and then 5.
Well, we'll see. What kind of Ares are we going to get from Aror here? What's the Arachne going to give us? We can only find out going down to Game 2.
Game number 2 in our best of 5 between the Gladiators and the Ferrymen, and we're already kicking off our weekend with some spice picks. We had some in Game 1, and now in Arachne. Here in Game number 2, it's J-Mac, Charlie, and Doug to bring you the action, and hovered over not just with the Arachne, but with a different recipe. Last time it was all bow and gooseberries. We see a party punch picked up by Cyno here on the Arachne, and at least from the rumblings that I've been seeing, Charlie, maybe not the most popular of the recipes to pick up, but what are your thoughts on the punch party here and the Arachne, I guess I should say, as a combo?
That sounds like I don't know, something like every time you see punch party, you got to give your buddy a punch on the shoulder or something like that. I don't think that it's
punch buggy.
Yeah, it really does depend on the actual matchup, I would say, and it depends on the jungle you're playing. I have seen a bit of party punch in the jungle, and I think Arachne can use it well. It's not like you need gooseberries, because if I'm honest, Golden Blade is always just the better alternative. You have to pick one or the other. You don't. You could get both, but both is a bit overkill. So if Cyno knows for a fact he's getting Golden Blade, I like the switch up. I'm just saying, you know what, there's no reason for me to just double dip into the gooseberries. Might as well go for that party punch. But what I don't like is he's just doing run-of-the-mill start, man. He's just putting some webs down at speed, pulling it like normal. Whenever I see Arachne in my rank games, there's like 3 webs at 1 buff, and then they're like invading purple or something, doing some wacky strat. Cyno playing this one relatively safe, at least for the early game. I guess just because, you know, the Arachne changes alone are enough to make her viable. You don't have to do some cheese early strat where you pull a lead. Just go in for your speed buff and play the rest of the early game normally. You got Paul on Hebo as well, so why not? I will say, though, it does seem like if you're looking at exactly how Aurora and Cyclone want to play this duo lane, the gooseberries are going to be very important in a clear that it's not picked up, right? That's not exactly what Cyclone was going for. That's the reason I thought Artemis was getting locked in. I was like, oh, auto attack gooseberries build. That's going to come back. Nope. Bluestone Transcendence Artemis is the play.
Now, I will say I've personally played with someone who has gone this build on Artemis.
Was she slapping?
And I questioned it super hard. First, I said, Bluestone Transcendence on Artemis? What? And then they ended the game like 9-2. I'm like, okay, maybe this build does slap.
Were they playing SPL?
No, they were not. They were not. They were not. But maybe they should. I don't know. Something about this start. Maybe it's just because like, if you don't have it, Artemis clear just feels really bad, and this makes it feel really good early. I'm not sure what the mindset is on the build, but from what I've seen in my personal games, it's worked out so far.
No, yeah. I mean, Artemis has great ability damage. Tusky, bouncing through the back lines with that extra damage can be insane. You could just throw in like a Fail Knot and a hi-rez and a Deathbringer into your build and go for the one-shot potential, all of which could be something that Cyclone leans towards. But like all ADC builds, it takes some time to get online, so I don't expect too many sparks flying in that lane unless Cyno decides to get active, and it seems like the Gladiators had that called out, and they decide to retreat and let that shield buff go their way. But another thing to think about is how annoying it is. I have played this Charon into Ares matchup, and anytime Aror is going to ult, Awesome Jake is just going to send his ultimate back and release the Styx and just fear Aror the second that ultimate's done, right? You can't cast your chains. You're CC'd for so long into a silence. It's a very annoying matchup to try and deal with. Of course, if you hit the chains, yeah, you can stop the movement that Mifflin was alluding to that Awesome Jake is going to have. But the ult for ult time is just never fun. You are getting feared back into the enemies every time you go in and try and get aggressive. Aurora's going to have to hold on to that ultimate for CC immunity at times.
It also just feels like a not fun matchup for Ares A, even with the flames in this case. You go for the fire, and if Jake's got his one available, silence him out of it. There goes your wave clear. Oh, you want to maybe like the one good match. Oh no, is he body blocked by the spiders? Stuck. The spiders had him stuck. Cyno's still going to fight back against Kyrmi though, with Baskin on the way. At least go for a blue buff invade or a kill if Kyrmi sticks around for too long. Blue buff low, stolen away by the Ferryman, and Cyno's going to keep going in. The stun is there, the silence after, but Kyrmi still just a bit too healthy for the Ferryman to keep pushing in.
I mean, Kana is lucky he's on. I guess if he was a smaller character, maybe he doesn't get stuck there. But the fact that he had the AoE auto attacks and cleared out those spiders, that's the only reason he lives. If he had a singular auto attack and had to kill them without the mana, the mana bar that he had, definitely could have fallen down to a first blood there. Great play by Cyno, at the very least able to put Baskin ahead and grab that blue buff. Hasn't went back and teleported, so he's going to get the worst end of the trade for now. But Kana was forced to upgrade that teleport by a Chalice. That means that Chronos Pendant is not going to be built for quite some time. I do think that, you're fine with sitting back. You've got good early game with the Arachne. Baskin, I think, is only going to get better with time. We already talked about how CycloneSpin wants to sit by. But the Gilded Gladiators, as alluded to on the desk once again, do have that tank shred composition, right? Kyrmi and Snoopy are still going to be doing great damage. Stuart, once again, reprising that Olorun. So some of these tankier targets, in particular Aurora, are going to have a hard time frontlining this game.
Now, I've seen some talks about it, but I want to get your thoughts on it here. We're going back to Cyno again, because probably the most interesting thing on the map is probably the fact that we haven't seen Arachne for years competitively, and I think even within the last like 3 or 4, maybe only 1 game. Carapace Shard, something we don't see very often, but picked up here in the jungle. What are your kind of thoughts on this Relic Shard in particular for a jungler like Arachne?
I haven't seen it too much in jungle. I know Awesome Jake is a big believer in it. When it last game on the Cabrakan goes it here. If you're going to be hitting consistent auto attacks, and hey, it's good for 1v1s. I think Wing Shard is usually the easier go-to because it's kind of mindless. You can use it for movement speed, you can use it for attack speed, you can use it just for extra DPS, whereas Carapace Shard, you kind of have to think about it a bit more. It could be much more impactful stealing those protections, but you're not just going to pop it to chase someone down. You're going to make sure you're hitting someone with high prots, trying to shred through some of these tankier targets. And so as long as you're mindful of when you're using that shard, I assume Cyno can get some good value out of it. It's just Wing Shard. I pop my shards to do buff sometimes, if you've got Horn Shard, like, hey, I'm a mid laner and I really want to get these mid camps. I'm gonna pop Horn Shard. You can't be doing that with Carapace Shard.
Yeah, walk in. Okay, we just cleared the jungle. I'm level 2 now as a mage. Throw out my abilities, clear wave. All right, Horn Shard. All right, let's start for the next 2v2 or the next wave clear kind of thing. So we'll keep sights on Cyno as this game continues to develop through. Because I think when it comes down to the late game, we talk about tank shred, we talk about 1v1 potential. Kyrmi on the Nemesis, really kind of known as that tank shredder, pop ultimate, couple auto attacks after. Feels like your tanks are never tanks any longer. Used to kind of be the age-old answer to gods like Jean-Qui, Cthulhu is kind of a response. We don't really see Arachne ever. So what's that late game kind of dependency between these two gods? You know what Nemesis wants to do? Well, what does Arachne want to do late game?
Arachne's interesting because catch her in the jungle by yourself, you're almost guaranteed dead depending on the matchup, right? It really does depend on how much self-peel you have. Does she have her blink? Does she have her ultimate? Does she catch you with a web? But if she does, more often than not, you're going to be getting shredded down. Her biggest fear is not having that blink and not having CC available, because if that's the case, Arachne is a bit of a sitting duck. She doesn't do much. It's kind of like Baka, right? Bakasura with his ult, big threat. You can fight in the jungle, you can get aggressive, you can look for those 1v1s. Without it, Baka's kind of just set to split pushing and farming. So I imagine Cyno's going to do a lot of sitting around corners, trying to catch someone with a web, maybe setting up some cheeky wards, looking for 1v1s where you know that no one else from the enemy team is nearby. I think that's Arachne's strength, right? Getting in, finding a fight, using that ultimate to disengage and hope no one can chase you down. But it does get a bit annoying late game, right? You are a melee character who has to close gap. You only get one set of beads, so maybe Cyno goes into something like a Magi's just to make sure that he's able to get to the back line, dive things like Stuart, who, maybe not worrying about that knock-up, things like that. I imagine that's in Cyno's future.
We panned over to Kana there for a moment. I just hear him using the goose
He does
quack.
not stop.
He's just like, if you are playing this skin, this is the only way to play it, is constantly spam those quacks. We'll need to try and get away from the Arachne-Ama combo. Just enough movement speed to do so, and just keeps up the quack. It's the mind game. This is the closest thing you get to taunting somebody without physically taunting them. It's just the constant quack from the goose. He's doing it in between his abilities and his autos. This guy does not stop.
Well, Cyno gets another chance to try and hit the web. Doesn't end up going for it. Maybe he was afraid of the quacks himself. Remember, early on last game, we did see some objectives fly. We saw a lot more early kills than we've seen so far this game. I can see why the Gladiators are playing a bit safer, XP-wise. Everyone's looking relatively similar. Of course, Kyrmi gets the better end of the early clear, but now that Golden Blade's online, Cyno should be able to catch up in that regard. But Paul, Sibo, is able to pull ahead as well. Kyrmi takes some good damage there. It looks like he dove. Aror ended up ulting defensively and get some good damage, but CycloneSpin didn't drop Tusky. I mean, if you get the pull there, and Kyrmi takes that much edge, you'd think Tusky couldn't bring something through, but buff invade up to Aror to steal and doesn't get it.
Cyclone keeps up the chase onto Stu. Wants to get that sanctified field, but just not enough threat with the Artemis yet to do so. So purple buff stolen away by the Gladiators. Removes some of that XP away from the Styx Ferrymen and keeps some of that pressure up for Stu. He's taking a little bit of a beating last game. Now wants a little bit of extra room to breathe. Has quite the front line to maybe allow him to do so here with this Charon, with this Jormungandr. But eyeing for late game are the Gilded Gladiators with this style of composition. Haven't even really had a chance to talk about the mid laners because not a whole lot has been done just in general here in the mid lane. Paul's just been farming up, got his Book of Thoth online, nearly stacking that one up. He's helping clear out mid camps on the right side. Gladiators seem to have just been taking the ones on the left. So when it comes down to, I mean, where you lack the kind of burst assassin maybe in Cyno, you get kind of a pseudo one with Paul in late game on the Hebo.
Oh, you definitely do. And Paul goes for the beads. Aegis doesn't have that blink, doesn't have that gap control, but still plenty of burst damage as you highlight. I do want to see Paul get active eventually, but in no rush at this point. Playing this one nice and slow. Trying to get online. That has been the case so far. Baskin opts to just go in for the proxy farm. Why not? Who's going to stop him? At this point, I want the Styx Ferrymen to try and get aggressive, right? They pulled a small farm lead, and actually it's completely even. It's just the XP that is in Paul's favor at this point, considering the duo lane, Jake and Stuart, have been able to pull ahead of Aror. And Kyrmi's been spending a lot of time on this side of the map. Finally, though, it's Cyno over on the left. My question is, are you looking for a gank? Are you looking to try and fight where Awesome Jake and Stuart are, that doesn't seem fun. You don't have any beads. If you get anywhere near Stu, he's going to drop the time dilation, and Paul takes a lot.
He's got crushing waves get out. Aegis to sit under the tower, but Aegis isn't going to save you from all of this damage. Aror trying to pull Kyrmi back, gets him in the tower, a dump in by Cyno, and a kill for Aror. 1-for-1 trade, but first blood goes to the Gladiators.
Yeah, Paul just a little bit too far forward. That Aegis came too little too late. And a beautiful dive there. Unfortunately for Kyrmi, did not start beads, which means Aror gets that pull every single time until one more of the level. So easy pull back. Cyno would have loved to grab that kill, but hey, at the very least you trade and you don't lose your mid laner for nothing. CycloneSpin might be forced into the old tiers in a little bit of trouble. Does drop Tusky, that should be plenty. With the ultimate coming. Gets
Oh, the
Spear
wave!
back in, he doesn't beads!
No, the wave caught him, a root from Jake, and a knockdown for the Gladiators. But now is Jake out of position, stunned by Cyno, slowed down by the webs, trying to fight back, has a little bit of shield, uses the meditation, but now with the chain there, he's locked down for a bit, but it's a turn back for Stu, who pulls Cyno away. Jake might just be out of this one. With Kyrmi there as backup, the Gilded Gladiators, they get a pick, they get a steal on the buff, and they all make it out.
I mean, this is exactly what we were talking about. The survivability of Charon can just be absurd. The meditation pop, the shielding, the silence, all the while just waiting until he can row away with the help of his team. Of course, Aror does hit the chains and should have been able to find that kill until he looks into the distance and sees, oh, Snoopy's coming over. Okay, maybe I should just back up here. Maybe I should play just a little bit safer. Unfortunate. If Cyclone had known that ult was coming, could have beads and just ran away, but decided to eat it, didn't drop the beads, too much damage coming from Stu, and ends up falling down there. I do think would have died regardless if he beads late, but if he pre-beads that ult and just ran, definitely could have made it out there. Unfortunately for the Gladiators, not in a position to try and capture this beacon because they were off winning a fight and sticking around farming. So at the very least, Styx Ferrymen get a small win in that first beacon cap.
First cap for the Ferrymen. About a 600 gold lead for the Gladiators. Most of that just coming from that first blood bounty, a little bit of bonus extra from getting that buff steal as well just moments ago. Now we're starting to gear kind of towards the mid game here, Charlie. Players starting to hit that level 12 point aside from your support. So I should say aside from singular support in this case. Aurora the only one. Not to that point yet on the map for his side. CycloneSpin right there. Kyrmi stunned out by Cyno. Pops the shield after. Gets a nice little bit of healing back. Cyno's damage is just not quite there right now. And Snoopy forced up in the sky. The wave catches two. Awesome Jake roots two after. It's a re-engage by Kyrmi. We're going to go for the ultimate to try and pull back, but only grabs Awesome Jake. Snoopy and Kyrmi are both so low in this fight. With Paul showing up now, and Awesome Jake with backup might just be a fizzle out of this fight is what I would say, but Baskin decided he wanted to join the action. He's going to get knocked away by Kyrmi and Cxnnahh.
Yeah, Baskin dove Snoopy underneath the tower, but the Ferrymen realize Baskin's going hard. They go in for the Fury, and they are able to grab it. Very clutch relics by Snoopy to survive. Kyrmi shows up, makes sure that Baskin's not able to find that solo kill, but because they put so much help into trying to peel, we're not able to defend the gold trade. But honestly, since the Gladiators were able to grab that Pyromancer, not looking too bad here. Aror can step forward, has to hit the chain on Awesome Jake to look for any chance at a kill. Does grab one, and here comes Cyno. How long can you stall is the question.
Aror gets a couple of chains through. Jake still pushing forward. He's already used his dash. He's even canceled it. Now is a chance for a turn and burn from Cyno. He goes on to Stu, gets both his relics and the ultimate away, but he's on the wrong side of the ult. Cyno's forced up in the sky. Just a little too much damage coming from the Olorun and not enough from Cyno. Feels like this build path by him just isn't giving him the oomph that he needs.
Yeah, that Vital Amplifier, it's going to take a bit, I think, before this build is really online. I have been liking the Mannequin Scepter variations, but at this point, Eye of the Jungle, it's going to be that payoff at level 20, right? When you get the upgrade started, when you're able to get a little bit more attack speed, a little bit more damage, should be looking good. At the moment, not quite. That Golden Blade and Vital Amplifier really are not hitting the numbers just yet. But level 16 here for Snoopy. I mean, he almost died. But since then, has been able to stay relatively safe, has no relics to his name. But top of the farm game so far. And honestly, all of the Gilded Gladiators are looking relatively good XP-wise. All but, I guess, Baskin has been able to find that level lead over Cxnnahh, just by nature of the proxy farming going on. So definitely in the lead XP-wise, looking towards this late game that we are sort of transitioning into. Only 15 minutes in. not the biggest concern for now. But the objective play, headlined by Awesome Jake and some nice rotation from Cxnnahh, is still where the Gilded Gladiators have their strong suit. It's not easy for the Styx Ferrymen to try and walk up. As you can see, Awesome Jake has been a nuisance on this Charon. Good poke. The CC, these ultimates have been on point. We'll see what the Gladiators do with the lead they're going for, but oh my goodness, I thought a Fire Giant was being pulled, and it definitely is. Cxnnahh spots this right away, though.
Cyno jumps up in with it. Cxnnahh, he's just going to quack away. Hawk, I should say. Does get stunned out. Has a tower, but now with Paul nearby, it's a lot of damage to the Jorm, but Paul is now by himself. Used the crushing wave, but he gets hit by the knockup, hit by the double wave in, and Paul is low. Paul is gone. Jake with 1 kill. Cyno up on the webs, trying to crawl away from this team fight. And back to the tier 1 tower, the Gilded Gladiators get just another kill. And able to stop this Fire Giant push and maybe even start one up of their own.
Seems like they're looking for it. Remember, Cxnnahh already ulted out. Here comes CycloneSpin. That ultimate will do good damage to Snoopy if it's able to bounce around. And already, FG's getting relatively low here. I don't think that the Gilded Gladiators have any issue for trying to just go for the 50-50.
Half health and less now on the fire. Sanctified field down, but Cyclone's going to go in with Tusky. Kyrmi is low. Kyrmi is gone. Cyclone gets 1, and now Cyno blinks in to take down Snoopy. That's 2 gone from the Gladiators, and the Fire Giant gets stolen away. The Styx Ferrymen take down 1, and Cyno picks up a triple. Jake is the only one alive, and he'll just barely make it to base before Cyno rounds the corner. Objective steal and 4 for the Ferrymen.
I mean, this is the second time now, J-Mac, where we've seen the Gilded Gladiators with a composition like this with Marty and Olorun go in for a Fire Giant play where they just don't have the DPS. I mean, Kyrmi was dead before it even started. They don't have a true ADC. They don't have that crit hunter. Olorun is not doing enough damage to try and pull that Fire Giant. And the Styx Ferrymen, this is the second time that they have not been in a good spot for a Fire Giant fight. Wait until it did enough damage and then come in with the clutch cleanup. Cyno was up massive there for his team. I mean, Paul was not in a great spot. Wanted to go for the crushing wave. Did not realize he was out of position. Ends up getting dove on there. And the team just goes through. Tusky bouncing around the back. Plenty of CC. Cyclone's been showing why this Artemis pick can be extremely scary in a jungle fight. The Styx Ferrymen are able to push themselves in the lead, grab the Fury, grab the Pyromancer, all before 20 minutes.
Not even 20, what was that, almost 17 minutes that we got a Fire Giant. That's a very early objective, even for competitive sake. We've been seeing averages of 22 to maybe 25, kind of right around when that first Titan push comes out is where we see these Fire Giant startups, but in our first 2 games today, we're already starting to see a little bit more pressure towards fire and some very early objective knockdowns. It's 4 of the Ferrymen with the buff around their waist. But not a whole lot for them to really do here. It's still tier 2 towers in mid and right. Tier 1 and Bastions are both full on the side of the duo lane for the Gilded Gladiators, so maybe not as much pressure there. Though again, I guess for the Ferrymen, it wasn't a case of they wanted to go for fire. It's just, hey, they're doing it. We might as well take a fight here. They win the fight, put a triple on a Cyno, and really starts to expedite his build. Now tier 2 Bounce Blade and a Silver Branch bow on the Arachne.
Yeah, I'm thinking Kins and that Silver Branch will start shredding Cxnnahh. Definitely have to ult out here. Can Cyno catch him is the question. It looks like he's trying to figure out where he's going. Nope, does not get the read right. All the while, the rest of the Ferrymen taking a 3v4. Not a great fight, and they're going to have to try and retreat here.
Cyclone pops beads and, or I should say, pops only the ultimate. Aror is going to pull back a couple with his ult, but he's stuck inside Sanctified Field, running as fast as he's able to, but he can't get very far. One more shot would have done it, but he can't now. It's Snoopy who has to use an ultimate, but he doesn't get enough ticks for the damage this time. And Awesome Jake will have to row himself back to safety. Tier 2 on right, knocked down. CycloneSpin
back?
Still hunting for one more. Doesn't see Snoopy until just now. And Snoopy and Paul meet up, and it's Paul who takes him out.
Wow, Snoopy almost made it back there. Here comes Baskin. Cxnnahh does not have beats, does not need them, because Baskin's ultimate is down from the fight over on right, but Cyno is going to dive him under the tower. Someone's dying here. Who is it going to be? He goes for Awesome Jake. Instead, he's just going to row away.
And didn't even get the spiders. Has to go up on the web.
What?
As he got a firebolt chasing him out.
Cxnnahh was free.
Not a whole lot of damage that Cyno's got towards these tanks just yet, but still opens up the door for tier 2 tower. So what was 4 towers on the map, now only sitting at just a single one over in mid. With a grouping by the Ferrymen, they'll push their way over and fully wipe out the last permanent structure on the map.
Yep. There's a bit of a wraparound here from Kyrmi. Does he really want to step forward, though? Cxnnahh also goes in. Yes, they're looking for a fight. It's on a Cyclone.
Cyclone down to half. Ultimate charge in. The wave clips 3. And the World Serpent hits CycloneSpin, but he's getting knocked around by the Jormungandr. But Paul takes down Kyrmi. And now it's Cxnnahh in the middle of 4. Can he even get the kill? CycloneSpin doesn't have any sustain in his kit, and it gets taken out. But Cyno will drop him in response. It's now 4 versus 3. Aror only grabs Snoopy with the ult, but Snoopy's got one of his own to trade right back. Aror comes up empty-handed with his pull, but the 4v3 still pushes to mid.
Why not? Sticking around here. It looks like Cyno wants to go for a possible wraparound or a split push, trying to make this 4v2. All the while, doesn't seem like anyone from the Gladiators is leaving just yet. In fact, Stuart's walking over, seeing if he can find a little bit of a 1v1 action against Cyno with that ultimate down. Doesn't seem like the best idea. Tier 2 will drop, and that should be the end of this Fire Giant push with air quotes around it. Fire Giant's been gone. The Ferrymen were looking for the fight. Gold, Pyro, and Fire. All about to be available at essentially the same time. And look at that dip in the graph.
8,500 gold, 12k XP. The latter of those two, meaning a little bit less, but with no level 20s on the side of the Gladiators. Remember, the Gladiators, aside from Cxnnahh, had 1 to maybe a 2-level lead up against the Ferrymen going into that Fire Giant just 5 minutes ago. It has now immediately swung back the opposite way. Styx Ferrymen in complete control of this game. Level 20s on everybody except for Aror. Pyromancer started by the Gladiators, but Baskin is nearby and spotted them out. Gets a silence and some damage onto 1. It scares the Gladiators away from an objective that, unless Cxnnah's got a well-timed spit, not going to be able to seal that one away. Styx Ferrymen claim yet another objective.
Claim it for now. Fire Giant hasn't been looked at just yet. Grouping definitely down, and the ward coverage for the Ferrymen is looking clean. But look at the Gladiators. They're heading to the left side of the map. I mean, Stu, Snoopy, they're going to pull that Fury. And the Ferrymen have to decide, are they going to push in or right? Are they going to go for Cxnnahh? Force out the ultimate seems to be the call. Should be able to get up if he does it quickly. Oh, if Paul was there, that could have been a different story, but he was a little bit too far behind. The second that Fury drops, though, and that tower gets gone, the Ferrymen know there's at least 3 people that are not near this Fire Giant.
And immediately to the Fire Giant, the Styx Ferrymen row. And, well, Fire Giant doesn't stand much of a chance against the full damage onslaught that the Ferrymen have going. No towers left for the Ferrymen to knock down, so instead it'll only be Phoenixes. But it's going to take them a moment now, because with that 3rd beacon cap, it will be Titans pushing up on the left-hand side. So Styx Ferrymen can make their full group up. They know that Fury is down, but send everybody to the left and start this siege.
Well, we got some time before the next scrap. So, Jay, I got to ask you, what do you call it when the Gilded Gladiators ADC goes to the gym?
What?
Doug, can you hover over Auror's recipe, please? Sturdy stew.
How long have you been cooking that one up?
Oh, I've had it. I was just waiting for Stu to make a good play. He's 1-1-1, man. When else can I whip it out?
That's fair enough.
We had some downtime. I mean, maybe not for long.
Cyno is up on the web. He doesn't have any backup, though. He's going to have to go back to base, maybe heal up inside the jungle, try and resustain for a moment. Maybe Cyno wishes he had some of that sturdy stew to stay alive a little bit easier. Does manage to get out. With the healing Arachne's kit, Eye helping out. Final Amplifier should be fine. Resustaining himself. Titan on the left side being dealt with by the Styx Ferrymen. Doesn't even get a chance to really fight back against anything. Hits a few minions before it eventually goes down, but a full health Titan still marching forward for the Ferrymen.
Marching forward is the call. They do have their Titan, which is going to help out grabbing this left side bird, but I love this play. The 5v5s are so difficult to make work without a true EFG, right? The Phoenix just does not drop as quickly as you would like, so split up the map. Cyno and Baskin pushing up mid, try and go for a 3-2 split. Cxnnahh sort of playing mediator between both lanes at the moment. And grouping up, honestly, could benefit the Ferrymen. The more targets you can hit with Tusky, the better here for Cyclone. So this might actually work out in the Gladiators' favor. They don't have to use too much beads, and it's not like Cyno and Baskin are going to grab that bird. Neither of which have any sort of range damage, but they are stepping forward and doing a lot of damage to Kyrmi.
Kyrmi, 3rd HP left. Kana nearly. No, he doesn't. Cyno gets one last auto to weave right in. Kyrmi dives back in, but Baskin's able to dash away.
Oh,
No, the
the
Phoenix
heal.
Bolt still takes him down. Titan falls on left side. Both birds still stand for the Gilded Gladiators, but it's 1-for-1 as the Soul Eaters trade out. Cyno fighting 2 different enemies.
There's a Phoenix
and
shot.
He might just fall when the Phoenix shot hits him on
Gotta
landing. He's
heal.
healing as much as he can. It stays up just long enough while Cyclone takes down one. Paul crashes in with the wave. And Aegis is right through Snoopy's damage. Cyclone finds one in the trap. Paul finds one in the sky. And it's a deicide for the Styx Ferrymen. Left Phoenix gone. And the team can march in game number 2 in one fell swoop to the Styx Ferrymen.
While we were watching the questionable Phoenix dive in mid, it seems like Paul, Cyclone, and Roar were just getting to work on the other side of the map. They were making sure that Phoenix goes down and that fight goes handily. Crushing wave, doing quick work to the carries of the Gilded Gladiators. This one, much more convincing, but still off of a misplay at fire off of the Gilded Gladiators. Seems like if they either A, got off fire and decided to fight, or B, played the firefight a little bit differently, we could be talking about a 1-1 situation, but the Gilded Gladiators gotta tighten up that objective play. We already discussed it on the desk. 2 new players, right? They're still trying to iron out some of the new player, action, but firefights, you gotta do that on any team. Gotta figure out one clear voice to listen to in these fights.
Yeah, so far, the Fire Giant has kind of been the kryptonite here for the Gilded Gladiators, unable to really make anything work from there. Game number 1, they try to send 3 people to it, not enough damage, nearly get wiped after and lose the Fire Giant. Game number 2, send the team over there, not enough DPS, nearly get wiped, Fire Giant stolen away. It's been a repeat here in game number 2 to see if maybe now the Gilded Gladiators can tighten things up for game number 3, because they're now 1 game away from elimination here in our kickoff tournament. Remember, it's a best of 5. You only get 1 chance to keep going. And so far, the Styx Ferrymen are doing so. 2-0 to start off the set. We'll see if they can keep it hot in game number 3 right after this break.
This one starts out a little differently, but Mifflin, it ends in the same result. Ferrymen up 2-0 now over the Gilded Gladiators. And there's so much to try and dissect in that game that's going on, whether you want to look at the Arachne, whether you want to look at Fire Giant steals. I mean, really good plays from both Paul. But the thing that really caught me off guard and maybe surprised me a little bit more, just because we haven't seen her in a long time, the build from Cyno on Artemis being focused on ability, and then how much damage output he had by the end of the game.
Yeah, ability Artemis. I mean, I'd seen rumblings, okay?
Yeah.
I mean, look, every time there's an Artemis on a stream, someone's like, build ability. Like, I'm watching Barracuda stream. I've seen a few of these other ADCs, and it's just, build ability Artemis. Try it out. And everybody's like, no, don't do it. I don't want to do it. I think maybe you could do it. Hot take, maybe you can get away with it, because it was looking pretty good. But I don't think it's Artemis in particular that nets the Ferryman a dub. I don't think it's the Arachne, even though there was a pretty good performance from that. And it's not even like a Paul Legacy game. This is another one from the Gilded Gladiators where I think it's lack of leadership and maybe not being on the same page in the team fight that really cost them. That major fumble at the Fire Giant, essentially the turning point of this game. I call GG watching backstage. It's like, that's it. There's no way your mental's going to recover getting wiped like that in a situation where the fight starts off looking well and then you lose the Fire Giant, which also costs you your birds. It was just such a major fumble, and it immediately leads to this, right? It expedites the entire pace of the game. From there, the Gilded Gladiators were actually in an advantage position, but the Styx Ferrymen punish game just a little bit too heavy. So many of these team fights had the same issue as game one, Gore. It's just one or two members here trying to make something happen, the other three on the other side of the map, or maybe two on the other side of the map, and one guy's healing, so nobody's playing with the full strength. If it's a 3-2 split, not all three are responding to the three. It just really was all over the place from the Gilded Gladiators. And at no point did we see that true, what I'd call for in P's and B's, deal with the frontline style of play.
Yeah.
There was no sanctified field with a Nemesis ultimate inside of it. I didn't see a Guan stun into a Marty ult. I didn't see everybody jumping on the tankier targets, even though that is exactly what this composition, I think, is essentially built for with all the defense shred you had slotted in. We talked about the Marty ult, we talked about the Nem ult. I forgot to bring up that Guan Yu does it too. Taolu Assault has defense shred, so they had so many resources to just jump on Aror, even in the early game, and make it miserable to be Ares. Did you see Aurora's slash line at the end there?
That was pretty good.
1-0-9.
Yeah.
Ares needs to be dying into a comp like that.
And what's interesting is, you know, you're looking at his and piggybacking off that immediately, there was one moment that it felt like, okay, this is the time. This is the chance to kill.
Excuse me.
And
Aurora
Charon just walks around the corner. And he manages to outlast every ability that Marty threw at him. A lot of that. Plus Cyno goes 5-0-1, and a majority of those kills are found at that FG steal. Nice loop around, gets a triple kill. Keeps it clean. Keeps the Gladiators thinking as we get into game 3 here. What could be the last one if the Gladiators aren't able to figure out what's been going wrong and how to fix it. Like you said, feels like it's not necessarily a comp problem, and it does translate to a play on field problem, but not because of mechanics, but because of potentially shot calling here, is what it's felt like, at least watching from the outside in. And so we'll see how well that continues. Bans come through: Ganesh, Freya, and a third to come soon from Gladiators. Other side, Chernabog and Sun Wukong. And so on that list, I mean, we had Thoth earlier, Raijan's been up there. Even just last game, we had a lot more focus on, hey, this is what went wrong in Game 1 to Game 2. But now they're going to make even more changes. Here's what went wrong from Game 2. Now to Game 3, get rid of the Ares. Ferrymen get rid of the Raijan. Gladiators, once again, go back to the Charon with their first pick.
Yeah, Charon, I mean, I'm not going to leave anything at Charon's feet. So much of that game did come through Charon. I really liked, especially that Tier 1 tower dive we saw in a CycloneSpin.
Yeah.
Just catches him with the tail end of that ultimate right when the beads wore off. Pulls him back in, sets up very well. So Charon, I think, a plug-and-play god, going to fit in the majority of those games. Not an issue to grab it first overall, and I'm not even imagining any like clean counter matchups. I'm sure as the meta develops, we'll start to figure out exactly what gods can put a stopper to Charon. Ganesh comes to mind, but that's just because silences means you can't do anything that you want. But the Gilded Gladiators, for my money, have not done enough to limit what the Styx Ferrymen have already presented to us in this set. The Styx Ferrymen very well could have 5 more distinct compositions with distinct playstyles and unique hooks and things that could be completely different. They don't have to go towards any of them right now. With the bans as they are, the Styx Ferrymen essentially, I think, could just run back a composition that is about the same as Game 2. And the Gilded Gladiators show that they have some fight back in the early game, but couldn't quite figure it out in the team fight. We'll see if maybe they grab something that's a little bit easier to execute on here, simplify your game plan.
Yeah.
Hard CC into a massive mage ultimate tends to work out on every level of play. Could be that they decide to go towards it here. Pele and Artemis, once more, for the Styx Ferrymen. Pele, flex potential, could go mid, could go jungle. I'd like to see it in mid. Worked out real well last time.
Paul looked good on it. You have to imagine. That flexibility is one thing the Ferrymen bring, a couple of these teams bring. That just makes it so difficult to draft against. And Artemis, after last game, yeah, put Cyclone back on that. Might be a relatively slower early game, right? You know, it's still Artemis with our level of clear. But the damage we got later on, that changed up a lot. Medusa got locked in by the Gladiators in response. And they also lock in a Hebo to steal that one away from Paul, try to limit the mid laner for the Ferrymen. But Mifflin, we've seen several times, one, Pele could potentially go mid anyway. And so there's a conversation of what Hebo versus Pele looks like. But there's also the conversation that Paul's Paul, and he'll play sometimes whatever the hell he wants, and he's going to look good on it no matter what. Is that a matchup, at least Pele for Hebo? Is that one that you would like to see her still stick in mid against him, or do you think you pull her over into the jungle and put something else in mid?
I think Pele's got a really good matchup into Hebo.
Oh.
I mean, he just doesn't have great ways to clear wave from range. Generally, when I think of mages that play well into assassin mids, it's the ones that can throw out an ability from downtown and then reset to their tower.
Yeah.
The Merlins who can do it from far away, or the Thos, or maybe the Agnis who don't need to get so close to the wave, or even the Vulcans, right, who can just backfire and it delivers them to their own archer line. Hebo, if he wants to hit archers, has to essentially get in melee range or use Water Spout. And if you're using Water Spout, Pele's going to blink on you and you don't have your self-peel tool anymore. So we'll see. That's not to say that Hebo is guaranteed for mid either. I mean, could still go into the jungle, has some flexibility there as well. Have to see with the rest of the draft as it lines up. But it is an interesting matchup in that whichever one of the two establishes a lead, it's not impossible for Hebo to grab an early kill with the help of a jungler or something along those lines. Generally, we'll hold on to the lead. If Hebo's a level up, he's going to one-shot you. If Pele's a level up, he's going to one-shot the Hebo. So there's a high degree of volatility in that matchup.
Raven, Mercury, the two bans from the Ferrymen. The Gladiators took out Nike and Cabrakan. So some frontline pressure and presence of mind. And this was hovered last game as well. It's an Anubis hover from the Ferrymen. And they had hovered at last pick, if I remember correctly, before they ended up locking in what was eventually Baskin's actual pick. Which I guess resets us kind of to this mentality and maybe question mark from game one, which is, if this is an Anubis, is there a world where Anubis solo plays well in the current meta? And we don't need to answer it because we got Hades instead. So you can ask about Hades.
Well, I'm not going to ask.
Well, I'll ask about Hades. You're right. And if he is still a solo lane powerhouse like we've seen in the past.
I mean, a lot of his mage items are still very good. The stacking items seen a buff recently. Feels like Book of Thoth's in a decent spot right now, so it's not going to be like your traditional Warlock staff, but you could still get a little bit of penetration, stack up your power, and then maybe look towards defense a little bit later in the build. I think Hades is in a pretty decent spot, but I thought Hades was good before anyone else did, or maybe even before he actually was good, because his fear has always been 2 seconds, and a 2-second fear on a 12-second cooldown just seems like it would be a good combo. And that's not taking into account, of course, all of his damage and how strong his laning phase really is. And it's probably one of the strongest laning phases in Smite. Healing on every single wave for upwards of 300 HP feels like it becomes very difficult to actually do damage that sticks to him. So we'll see. I think expect a lot of the same from Hades. I don't think there's been too many changes to the meta that are going to affect him negatively.
A pretty wide amount of god diversity, even just in this first set. King Arthur locked in response, as long as we're assuming roles for the Ferrymen, probably going to be up against the Hades, but they still have one more pick to change everything for their draft. And then the Agni locked in, someone we got to see quite a bit of, and solidifies what you were saying earlier, which is that Hebo is not always going to be, and in this case is not, set for mid, and will be sent over to the jungle. Does this limit the team, though? You know, having a physical assassin versus, you know, if you throw someone like an Ao Kuang in there, Hebo out there, does that change enough of the gameplay, or is the fact that he's going to burst a lot make up for the fact that it's not physical damage?
Yeah, it's going to make it a lot easier, right? Anytime you've got 3 of one damage type, that puts a little bit of additional onus on the other damage type to pick up some of that weight, because it is likely that the Styx Ferrymen will buy a little bit more magical defense than they would have otherwise. That means that Medusa now has a bit more real damage in the engagement. Her abilities are going to do a little bit more. Her auto attack is going to be a bit more valuable. King Arthur will have the space to actually be a threat in that backline. The concern, though, with the Gilded Gladiators draft, and once more, is hard CC's hard to come by. You've got a cripple out of King Arthur. He can do a few things with his ultimate, but that is ultimate reliant. Charon's got it on his ultimate. Otherwise, it's a root. Petrify is a conditional stun, essentially. So it's starting off fights and finding picks and locking down individual targets, I think, going to be an issue for the Gilded Gladiators. You might catch someone straggling in the jungle. They're going to walk away from you, and they're going to do it pretty quickly. The majority of the Styx Ferrymen composition have got decent escapes. Even Artemis, to a certain extent, having the additional movement speed on Vengeful Assault means that she can get out of a lot of these situations. If you're really relying on slows, and it seems like Gilded Gladiators just might be, thanks to that Atlas of the Yellow River, good luck having those connect as well. So very high execution composition from the Gilded Gladiators, assuming that they're playing in an even state. If they pull a lead in the early, the Gilded Gladiators are a team in the past, before these roster changes, that was hailed as like a very strong early game team that was very good at snowballing. Assuming they still have that in them, this is a team that will play itself with a lead. If they're up 5k 10 minutes in, I mean, there's just every individual member of the Gilded Gladiators poses enough of a threat that they're going to win their 1v1s. It's just the concern of a true 5v5 that's really, really tearing at my brain right now. This is a very difficult composition to play.
And it feels like not just one that's hard to play, but one that's hard to play into on the other side, right? I mean, the Pele, we saw how impactful that can be. Up against Agni, he does have that capability to be further away, as you had mentioned, that's kind of the matchup that if you're going into an assassin you like, but it requires his entire ultimate, essentially, to drop and clear the wave versus like a flame wave, which is going to require you to, guess what, be right up there and hug against it. So based on what you had said earlier, maybe not the best early game that you're going to have to be dealing with. We saw what Artemis could do late game, but it's really the Sobek and the Erlang that I'm looking at. Pin feels so devastating that even without the knockup that Erlang used to have, it can be so controlling early on, and when you're linking that with a Pele who presumably is going to have some early game damage, I feel like we're going to have to keep our eye on mid. I think kind of the opposite of this last game where it was very slow and nothing happened for a while. It feels like it could be explosive this time.
It could be. Pele will have a much harder time actually connecting with Agni than she would have into the Hebo, but certainly an advantage towards the center of the map for the Ferrymen.
Well, we'll see whether or not it works out for the Ferrymen. It's do or die for the Gladiators here in Game 3 with JMac and Trell.
Yeah, we'll see if the Gladiators can bounce back here in game number 3, or are the Ferrymen going to sweep this one out in the best of 5 to start off our kickoff tournament. It's JMac, Trelly, and Doug back for game number 3. But it's going to be Cyno on the Hades this time around. Baskin taking the Erlang Shen to the solo lane. And so then I guess, oh, he's playing the Kaiju Sobek too. peeling back the curtain a little bit, we were talking with Aror in the lobby, and he talked about picking up, like he said, oh, if I play Kaiju Sobek, does this refer to you, Trelly? Am I talking about you? Because he talks about a person named Tony. Your name's not Tony, but it's close.
I mean, yeah, Aror figured out my name is Anthony and decided that he wanted to play Kaiju Sobek so he could say hi to Tony. So there you go. I didn't think he was actually going to do it, but I'm only assuming that he's spamming it constantly through this game. And with that being said, there is a lot of beads burned on the side of the Styx Ferrymen, right? They've got the Artemis that we just saw Cyclone play. They've got the Sobek that we've already highlighted. Add that with Cyno and Baskin. No one's going to be holding on to beads for long. Snoopy, only form of CC immunity is going to be those beads. So trying to hold on to that for as long as possible. Definitely going to be a good look. At the very least, can dash out of Cyno's ultimate, but everything else could be dangerous if you're getting caught without your dash available. Kyrmi on the Hebo jungle. I think he's going to have a little bit of a slow start time, but level 5 usually comes around, has some great gank opportunities. There's a reason we see that pick so highly prioritized. I do want to see how these Hades ganks go, because you know, as Mifflin highlighted, the blink, blight into fear does mean crazy CC. You got to make sure those beats are down before you drop that ultimate, or you're just going to get a little bit of tick damage before they're able to escape.
Yeah, so seeing
Aror stole it. Oh, that's so bad.
Oh, that's not a great startup for the Gladiators duo lane. So level 2 now for Aror. Level 2 short laughter for Cyno. And this is just the worst feeling. You get the buff stolen, now you can't even step up to the wave just because that level 2 threat is there already. Stuart and Jake are being zoned away from a little bit of farm. Not much, though. Most of the minion wave still back and going once more. And gotta highlight, Cyclone back on the Bluestone ability style Artemis is a little bit of a struggle in the early game. In game number 2, late game, did a ton of damage. Going back to it one more time here in game 3.
Yep, those jungle fights, man. I mean, I wouldn't say single-handedly won, because I think Cyno played a big part, but Tusky bouncing around that FG fight was a big part of the reason that the Styx Ferrymen even won that objective fight and were able to take that Fire Giant after. It is a little bit difficult to deal with early on because your, Hail of Arrows, or Suppress the Insolent rather, does not do enough damage to really clear away for quite some time, but once you do get those stacks, you will just be able to sort of chunk with your abilities. Saw what a little bit of a Hades gank looks like, just the fear into the Devour Souls, and then you sort of run away. But so often so, in this set, we've seen a lot of Cyno coming over for shield buff early on, look towards a possible gank. You see Stuart and Awesome Jake immediately go underneath the tower, and that's the end of the aggression. Not easy to go for a cringe gank on a Hades regardless, but especially not easy when Snoopy calls it out immediately and says, hey, they went left, back up please. Like there is no reason for you to die there. Paul, though, he's going to be out-pressuring Snoopy for a while. Agni's clear, abysmal until level 5. You have to walk up to the wave, and when you do, you're going to take some damage from Pele.
Yeah, Paul trying to go for some poke against both Kyrmi and Snoopy. Only able to really get poked from that Pyroclast at this point through. Just can't quite close the gap enough to stick to one of those two, but still dominating as far as his pressure lead goes. Aror dashed in for a pluck, but it's being turned and burned on by Stuart and Jake. Aror able to heal up, though. Meditation used by the Sobek. Gets him back to at least a decent threshold of HP. But for that, was able to get the beads away from Stu. A pluck back onto Jake. Didn't quite get the trap that Cyclone was looking for, and Jake's able to row back away.
And the rowing is just so annoying, and unfortunate for Cyclone, as you said. Mistimed the trap there. Used to be a pretty easy combo, right? The old pluck and a trap. If you haven't been doing it consistently, sometimes you miss the lineup, and Jake's able to just row right through both of them for the time being. Stuart's speeds are down for 2 minutes, though, so possibility for ganks if that lacerate ever goes down. Hasn't been too worried about Cyno since he's on the right side of the map. He knows speed buff is coming through, so Stu shouldn't have to worry about his life for the time being. Definitely a slower pace early game, pretty in tune with what we saw in game number 2 in comparison to game 1, which was a bit of a bloodbath at this point, just by nature of those early junglers. But I'm thinking we might see some ganks early on just because, again, so much bead spread from the Ferryman. It's almost difficult to not get beads down with how many abilities are going to be able to just CC targets and hold them in place.
Oh, Cyclone bites off maybe a bit more than you can chew. Has to pull the buffs all the way under tower just to help clear out there. But now Kyrmi wrapping around. Ultimate from Jake will crash through. Cyclone does pop the ultimate early, but a petrify from Stu takes him down. But Stu steps into the tower and Aror trades out a kill of his own. Now he's low, back of the tower. Does get silenced out. The trail is enough damage, and it's Jake with the second kill. And no damage thrown to Jake, so it's the tower that claims a second life.
I thought we were going to see 2 kills on the Croc this early on. Unfortunately, Aror did not hit the sickening strike, didn't get the heal, and ends up falling down there. I mean, beautiful ultimate from Awesome Jake. Forces out the ult from Cyclone just to not get feared away. I really thought it was going to be Kyrmi cleaning up that kill, but the Petrify from Stu makes sure to confirm that one. Grab the first blood, and then a beautiful pluck actually makes sure to confirm it. But Kyrmi, remember, just ulted over in duo lane. Holds the knockup, but one nicely timed.
Oh, no,
he missed the dash.
He missed.
I was going to say one nicely timed dash confirms it. But he didn't. It was not nicely timed. Unfortunately, it was off the mark.
It was not nice. It was not timed. It was no damage.
There was a dash, though.
It was a dash. He got one thing right. It was a dash. But he missed the 2 outliers along with it. Jake thrown into a trap. One more good auto from Cyclone, but he doesn't have the range. And once more, Awesome Jake able to weave his way out of a pull.
No Tusky either. Was close, but not quite available. Would have been able to find a bounce there. Just not enough damage. The Transcendence isn't online just yet. CycloneSpin needs more gold, and because of that, misses out on the kill. That's 2 dropped kills. I mean, I guess in that case it wasn't dropped. There just was not enough range. But Cyno definitely would have been able to kill Kyrmi. Ends up taunting him afterwards because of how unfortunate it was. Baskin definitely does some decent damage here to Connor. We haven't really dove in to this Erlang solo for good reason. I imagine this lane is going to be a bit of a snooze fest. Just poke each other back up, repeat the process. Phalanx is going to be an early start here for Baskin. With the Death Toll, yeah, you're going to be able to sustain just fine. But once Connor gets that Glad Shield online, has the Chalice, we'll be able to trade just a bit more effectively up against Baskin. I don't think it's going to be too much of something you want to trade because, again, there is a bit of sustain baked into the kit. But Kyrmi's nearby. Does he feel like it's possible to kill Baskin is the question. Seems like maybe.
Well, Baskin gets thrown down, hit by the knockup. Crushing wave used, but Baskin's still rather healthy unless Kanna's got a little bit more in the tank. Gets enough for that second ultimate and launches it forward to take down Baskin under tier 1. 3 kills for the Gladiators. A pluck by Aror. Not going to net too much here up against Jake. Rather tanky now with that prophetic stat starting up. Cyno runs into Snoopy inside the jungle. Snoopy, gotta imagine, still holding on to dash. Use it to get away from Paul. Paul doesn't connect with the ultimate's initial damage. And doesn't go down to the tower. The tower's just a little too slow for that second shot.
Yeah, Paul Lazybacks, he could be in trouble. But walks over where there's no way Paul Lazybacks now. He was going to. He was going to back right there, unfortunately for Kyrmi. Paul did have the ward coverage and knew he was coming through. Knew a Hebo with Blink was on the way. And Snoopy, too little too late, goes back to base, buys tier 2 breastplate. He said, you know what, after that play, when I did everything right, I dashed away from any aggression, I was frightened, I bombed myself and stunned and still died because of the pre-beads from Paul. Yeah, I'm going to need some tank stats on this Agni.
Goes right into it. Now it's just got to deal with this constant threat. His beads are up. It's a way to get out from Cyno, away from Paul, potentially if need be. Maybe a pluck from Aror. We haven't seen the duo. As mentioned, I think it was all the way back in game number 1 where duo really seems to stick to their lane a long time. The supports don't really rotate out as often or as early as they used to. So it might be some time before we see threat from Aror. Kind of across the map. Really feels like it's all about the duo lane more than anything else. The Gilded Gladiators, even despite the kills that they've been getting for themselves, that first blood, Jake dying to a tower instead of giving a kill over to Aror, they're down right now. Not by much, only a couple hundred gold, but the lead that you would imagine they have, given what they've been able to accomplish so far, hasn't really amounted to much for themselves. Maybe a kill on Kana would be great for him, but even with the dash, it doesn't get enough range, and Cyno evens out the kills.
Yep, beautiful play there by Baskin. Held the ultimate until the very last second. That 9 turns blessing could have been used a little bit earlier just to poke out Kana, but knew as long as he was able to CC and hold that ultimate until Cyno gets through, even if the big ultimate charge comes through from Kana, was not enough to try and get out of that one. Kyrmi, though, is looking around for Cyno. Does hide pretty well, but doesn't do enough damage to really warrant going in for a kill. Cyno is able to dash away here. I'm thinking because Baskin gets ahead, does have the ability to try and rotate out, and it's actually Paul going forward, solos Kyrmi, and is still charging forward.
If it weren't for the defense on Snoopy, he might have gone right back in, and now he's got the help of Baskin, who dives right under. Quick dash away, gets Snoopy out of danger, but a 2v2 over on the opposite side. Cyclone is just going to let Aror potentially go down, petrifies off damage, the wave pulls him back in, but there's still not enough damage, even with all the effort of Jake and Stu. Aror just is a little too tanky, which is weird to say, Charlie, because he didn't go tank first item. He went ChronoSpin in.
All the while, Paul still 1v2ing in mid. Snoopy 1 HP, had to juke out that Pyroclast. There could have been some trouble. I mean, I did expect a little bit more bloodshed this game than in game number 1, but I'm shocked at how much aggression has been coming through. And Cyno, staying true to his name, you talked about the ChronoSpin, and I'll do you one better. He went in for the CAD Club last game on the in game number 1 on the Nike just to buff the team. Looks like that's his style of Hades build his way. He's got to buff the team. He's not playing himself. He doesn't want to be a selfish Hades. He wants to make sure that they get their auras as well.
Says, look, I'm gonna heal more, but also you guys could heal a little bit more. Does end up going for the Rod of Asclepius immediately after, so whole team gonna benefit from it. But if I'm not mistaken, some of the changes that came with that Rod of Asclepius was cooldown aura for the team as well. So Cyno really gonna help out just about everybody around him.
He's a man of the people.
Sticking near that people.
Yep, he's a man of the people. That's what Cyno is. He said, hey, I'm going to be the support jungler. So far it's been working out 1-0-1, 2-0 for Paul. This Pele is an absolute threat, as you can imagine. So far already has the fully stacked Soul Eater, Jotuns as well, so plenty of CDR and healing. Whereas Snoopy can't trade for the life of him, right? Book of Thoth not stacked up, Breastplate. He can try and survive. Yeah, he's got cooldown. But if you're in a damage contest versus Paul, I would argue Snoopy can cycle all of his abilities twice and not match that Paul could do in just one use of the kit there from Pele. Let's watch. That was a bomb stun. Did it look like it do a lot of damage? No, it did not, because it's already healed back up.
Yeah. Soul Eater will do that for Paul. Keeps him nice and topped up on HP. Styx Ferrymen, where's their aggression trying to net themselves for? Is it start up a Gold Fury? Maybe get ready to go towards Pyromancer in a little bit. They're just playing really aggressive on this left side of the jungle, but not really moving towards an objective. Baskin taunts too. He's fighting back. He's got defense for both sides, and he's going to heal back. Even up against Kyrmi. Will turtle form out.
Stalling.
I say away, but instead it's just a bait. Cyno and Paul on the way. Kyrmi rooted out. Kyrmi still got ultimate, gets silenced out, hit by it. Ultimate's not enough. Cyno's got the dash this time, and now, well, where does Cxnnahh get to go? Probably right back to meet his teammate in the gray scale. Gets hit by the damage of Paul. It's a killing spree for the mid. The Styx Ferrymen rampaging on the right side.
Yeah, that's so much pressure on the right side, but you'd think a Gold Fury could be the call. No, the Gilded Gladiators looked at it for 2 seconds or so. Aurora walked up, and they decided against it. Maybe trying to get aggressive against the CycloneSpin, but look how much damage comes through from Petrify. Cyclone could be going down, but Stu can't find the auto.
Now it's Baskin to help join the fray. Stu is low. Shield comes through to try and help him out. There's so many shields, but it's not enough of them, even despite the best efforts of awesome Jake. The dual lane goes down. Both hunters removed off the map.
That's one of my favorite abilities of Charon. Of course, his whole kit is fun. His whole kit is pokey. It's annoying. But in reality, the fact that Jake can't help you. Once he hits the shield, you have to do damage, right? For you to get the shield on yourself, you have to hit. Stuart can't be like, bro, help me. You got to do the damage yourself. Stuart was hitting auto attacks, so we saw the shield building. Wasn't able to make it out, but at the very least, encourages that aggression, right? Stuart had to go in there, had to just try and fight his way out of that issue. Jake was in no problem, of course. He could row out whenever he wants. You could tell. Styx Ferrymen took one look at that Charon build and said, all right, well, we got our 1 kill. Let's just get out of here because we are not able to kill awesome Jake. But Stuart is happy with the trade, I would admit, because Baskin had to make the rotation all the way over to left lane just to make sure that kill went down.
Yeah, that second ability on Jake. Damnation. What a cool name, first off, for the ability. But as you mentioned, the interaction that comes with it for Charon and his teammates. Hit that target, get that shield. Can potentially turn a fight around if you can get that damage off on that target. But unfortunate for Stu, maybe just a little too low in HP that time, even despite all the shielding that came his way. And Jake not able to quite get the body blocks for them. So 7-4 now reads the scoreboard for the Ferrymen versus the Gladiators. Ferrymen with 1,700 gold up and 3k XP. Gold Fury would have been a potential threat earlier, but foregone for the time being. We'll ignore the Soul Laners for the moment unless Cyno is able to get there fast enough, and I'm not sure if he will. Baskin does get the taunt onto Cxnnahh. Cyno blinks over the wall, gets the silence, goes for the ultimate, but Cxnnah's able to dash right out of it with the Beyblade, goes right back through the both of them again. He's staying alive for a long time. That buff to the King Arthur, keeping him fairly tanky, but trying to buy time for the left side because it's Gold Fury instead. Ultimate comes out through the wave. It's not enough. It gets stolen away by the Ferrymen. In fact, it's Aror who does it. Steals it away for himself. Helps for a kill for CycloneSpin, and Baskin to the back line. Not much that Stu or Snoopy can do because it's 2 more taken down. Deicide and an objective steal for the Ferrymen.
Once again, the Gilded Gladiators' objective play is what's biting them. They were not able to go in for the confirmation. They had Crushing Wave. Did it get used? No, they were not able to find it. I think trusting that number one, Aror popped the ultimate too early, which he did, and also that awesome Jake CC would be enough to go in for the confirmation. Unfortunately, what they didn't consider is that the Kronos Croc had the Sickening Strike available after the ultimate popped, and Aror steals it away. Paul comes through with the damage, and you get both objectives for free. I've been waiting for a moment to bring up the fact that Cyno's going into an auto attack item, but didn't feel prevalent until we get to see him grab a tier 2 tower. He got the tier 2 ring, and that was enough to push him down and grab a tier 2 on the right side of the map. This is looking like a Hades dual build, but hey, it's working.
I mean, what ring do you even go into as a Hades this fun?
Typhons.
Is it Telekine's?
If he doesn't go Telekine's Typhons, I'd be shocked. If he goes Demonic, I'd be pretty shocked, because I think there's just a better avenue here. He does go demonic. I'd go Telekine's Typhons, but I'm not Cyno, and he's 3-0-2.
Cyno's a different beast.
Until he dies, I can't say anything.
Look, if this is any other Hades jungle player, that's probably Telekine's Typhons. But this is Cyno we're talking about, and Cyno does things just a little bit differently. Demonic Grip.
He is literally building differently.
He is building everything I probably would never build on a Hades. But it's working for him. 3-0-2. Kyrmi running from Paul. That's a 4-level difference between those two, but Paul will spare his life. That way they can get a pick on awesome Jake. Caught out by himself, surrounded by 4 over by the Gold Fury pit. Styx Ferrymen continue their onslaught. No tier 1 towers left on the map, only tier 2s in the duo and mid lane. Oh, Snoopy, you got to be careful, buddy. There's so many Ferrymen around. You might not even be safe here back by your own speed buff.
I'm not sure I can let this slide. I got to dive in deeper. I got to pick the brain of Cyno, because Demonic Grip is a fantastic item in a couple situations, one of which when you have another magical damage dealer on your team. Are we implying that's Aror? Is Cyno shredding for the Croc?
He got Kronos?
Is that why he built Kronos Pendant? Is that the play? I bet you Aror called it out. He said, hey man, I'm going to need a Demonic Grip because I'm going crazy on the Croc. And you know what? Aror is out-damaging not only Cyno, but also Cyclone. So I ate my words. I was wrong. He's going crazy. He is shredding for Aror. Aror is the damage dealer.
Baskin taunts Cxnnahh. Cxnnahh tries to run, but there's 3. Silence gets the beads. Cxnnahh buying as much time as he can, but with a pin that sets up for the dash and a rampage now for Cyno. 5-0-2 on the Hades jungle. The Fire Giant that was normally been started up by the Gladiators in the first 2 games for the first time is being hit first by the Ferrymen. But can Snoopy find his path in? Can maybe Jake go for a wave steal? He better launch it fast. That is a slow-moving ultimate. He goes for it. Can he steal it away? It's not going to hit hard, and well, it hits a little too early this time. Fire Giant to the Ferrymen.
I love that they could probably have out-DPS'd it, right? They could have just shredded before it comes through, but they all had the smart call of, let's just watch it go by. There's going to be like a wave just pushing through, and then we can go get our Fire Giant for absolute free afterwards. Definitely the correct play. And now the Styx Ferrymen for the 3rd time in a row. Well, that's not true. The first Fire Giant was at about, what, 23 minutes? The second one was about 17, and for the second time in a row, a pre-20-minute FG, this time on all 5. And they should be able to set up for the Primal Fury. There's still 2 more Tier 2 towers to look at, and builds are coming online here for the Styx Ferrymen. Unfortunately for Cyclone, hasn't been able to get too active. This Artemis hasn't really seen combat just yet. 1, 2, and 6, yes, has been around the fighting. But Cyclone would like to, get a massive ultimate off, see exactly how much Tusky's doing once that Crusher was finished. And I'm pretty curious as well. I mean, we saw it last game, of course, in a nice team fight where Tusky's able to connect to 2, 3 targets. That can just outright win the team fight for you. So, fighting around your ADC could be something the Ferrymen are looking towards.
Took a peep over at Cyno's build again. Staff of Mirrodin next.
Finish up that last bit of percent, Ben.
Yeah, gets that percent pen, helps him out a little bit. Pop that ultimate, now you get a little bit more damage afterwards. Well, let's see where this build rounds out. I'm curious.
If you have Blight and you fear someone, you can get a ton of auto attacks, which is why, a little bit of auto attack makes sense. But again, it's like if you're going demonic, you're shredding for someone, and that's when Aurora comes in.
It's for Aurora.
And that's
Aurora's like what, 3-1-4, 3-1-5, something like that at this point. I think
he got robbed that kill on Jake. He should have 4. He didn't. Unfortunately, he didn't do any damage to him, so he died to tower. But he got the assist.
So now, at least for the Gilded Gladiators, trying to recenter themselves, refocus up. They lost their Fire Giant. They're down to 2 towers left. Where's that fight back for the Gladiators? Is it bunker down inside of your Phoenixes and wait for a step up by the Ferrymen? Is it try and find picks in the jungle or maybe catch a straggler? What's kind of the callback here for the Gladiators to find their fight back in?
The callback here would be Game 1 Fire Giant. If I was them, that's where I would be calling back to. But in reality, if you're looking about this game, where they're going to make their mark, not underneath these Tier 2 towers. Phoenix is still definitely savable. I think with a big ultimate from Awesome Jake, you could find enough CC, pull someone into the Phoenix, look for a pick there from Kyrmi or Stuart. An interesting interaction that I didn't think about could be the ultimate from Awesome Jake, right? He unleashes the Styx, and then Stuart just gets a beautiful ult off it, right? The Petrify. You're essentially forcing them to be feared towards you. Could be a nice combo. But Kyrmi needs damage. That's the big difference maker as far as I'm concerned. He's got 3 items. This Hebo gets out-traded by just about everyone. I would be shocked if Aror couldn't 1v1 him at this point. So I'm thinking stall as long as possible, let Kyrmi get 1 more power spike, and then go for a big ult play underneath Bird. That's the best play the Gilded Gladiators have.
Doug, could we get net worth brought up? Because I'm looking at Kyrmi's build. He has 3 items, and he's the lowest farmed, even behind Jake at this point. I thought it felt strange that he was only 3 items in, same with Jake, but bottom of the net worth chart by 400 to his own support. Bottom of the damage chart, too. I think I was seeing him at the very bottom part, even below Cyno's Hades jungle, which is weird to see that it's only sitting at like 5,000 damage despite the fact he's 5-0-2, but...
Well, he's got 2 items that are only supporting the boys. That's not really something he's looking for.
Fair. I guess the brunt of his damage has gone to Kana instead,
That's
and
fair.
Kana's very tanky, so like cool 2 of your kills and big damage going that way, and yeah, you can see where the mitigated's coming from. It's all going to the tanks there. 23,000 there for Kana, but I mean, Kana's very tanky in these fights. You see it takes 2, even sometimes 3 or 4 people to take down this King Arthur. Seems some of the buffs that have come to his passive have really helped him out in his survivability.
Survivability, yes. Unfortunately, that's not going to be enough to stop the Styx Ferrymen as they do push down the left side Phoenix. They don't have too much time to play with. Only a minute left on this power play. It seems that they would like to go in for a siege. My question is, do you go for the 3-2 split once again? Is Paul going to join Baskin in mid lane and keep Cyno over on this side of the map? A lot of CC and beads burn for Cyno, Aror, and CycloneSpin. I do want to see Awesome Jake and Stu combine for a big ultimate play here, though. That is the only chance they have in a team fight for trying to win. Using the Phoenix to their advantage, using that CC together. Let's see if it works out for them.
Kyrmi trying to fight back against Baskin. Doesn't work there. Aror putting some threat onto Snoopy. Left side Phoenix is already gone. Crushing wave does hit Cyclone. And Cyclone's going to get slammed by another wave. Not just 1, there's 2. But here comes Baskin. Trailing in with a turtle. Finds the pin up against Kyrmi. A pluck from Aror may actually save Kyrmi's life and help him turn to fight back in. But Baskin going to trail him back down 1 more time. Kyrmi? He's still alive. In fact, it's the Ferrymen on the run. They lost 1. Have nearly lost the rest of the team. Snoopy gets a stun onto 1, but Paul dives right back in. Aegis is not going to save his life. Baskin falls, but Paul still keeps the fight going. A 2-for-1, maybe another. Cxnnahh, he gets thrown against the wall, and even with Kyrmi coming back in full health, it's not enough. Cyno's pulling him in, but Cyno just doesn't have the sustain to stay in this fight.
Well, I mean, not enough damage there. Aror should be getting chased down. Awesome Jake has plenty of movement speed with the help from Kyrmi. Question is, who's going to get it? Should have been Kyrmi, but he didn't hit the water cannon. Awesome Jake needs to hit the 2 and the 1. Doesn't have it. Aror gets to live in that situation. All the while, 2 Phoenixes go down. I noticed all the action over on the left, but I didn't even realize mid-Phoenix drops there as well. Baskin and Cyno go down for Snoopy, but you're happy with this one. And Paul might be able to clean up a kill on Awesome Jake, but waiting him in the jungle is Kyrmi. I'm not sure that's enough to keep Paul away, though. He's going to go for one more Pyroclast. Let's see if that's enough damage.
Pyroclast the minion wave for the extra speed? Nope, he doesn't do that. He does get the tidal wave away from Awesome Jake. Stu's already dashed. He's got to turn an ult, and that's a win for Baskin every day of the week. Does end up using his teleport to get to that side, though, so maybe not the most beneficial, but getting an ult away from Medusa now sets up for fire for the Styx Ferrymen. Cxnnah's on the way. Maybe.
He just wants Chester, man. Come on, let's be honest.
He's just trying to get farm. He's trying to hit level 20 anytime that he can. With Baskin standing by, I don't think anyone can step into fire, and there's no threat of the global wave this time through, so the Ferrymen will clean sweep fire.
They will. Unfortunately for the Ferrymen, Titans are coming out. You could look at it as a positive or a negative. I think it's a negative, because that means you can't end the game, because you got to kill the Titan first. But at the very least, it's going to help you grab that right side Phoenix with this next Fire Giant. The Gilded Gladiators have time to farm. Try and hit some crucial level 20s. Kyrmi got a full Soul Reaver online since the last time we saw him. That's going to be a huge buff. Remember, he only had 3 items. That was one of the big issues we were having with how much damage Kyrmi is able to output. This will certainly help it. He was able to pass up Cyno in the damage charts. And also, when you go a build like this, there was a pretty big Pillar of Agni. There was no healing that we usually see. There's no lifesteal in this build, so there's a reason that Cyno's on the lower end of the charts. Being an Aura bot is cool, but you're not going to make those big flashy damage plays.
He was hoping Aror would land a few more shots after.
He was hoping the fully charged lurking in the waters was coming through. He's like, bro, I'm here to set up for you. Please follow up.
He's like, I got my demonic passive on them, bro. Where's your damage at? But full health Titan for the Ferrymen marching up right side. 3-2 split once more. It's Paul and Baskin over in mid. All 5 of the Gladiators in. And Jake launches the ultimate early. It only clips Aror this time. Baskin's already in the back. He taunted 3 people back and got so much value from just one ultimate. He'll be able to back up as the right side Phoenix goes down. Titan marches into the throne room. We're going to have a Titan versus Gladiators battle. Cyno gets 1 with ultimate. But the Titans are still swinging away. Cxnnah's trying to fight in the backline with the help of Kyrmi. The crushing wave doesn't get the damage that he was hoping. He goes down. And Cxnnah in the back, he gets on only 2 Cyno. Snoopy dashes through CycloneSpin and dies the moment the dash ends. Paul takes down Cxnnah. Stu wants the ultimate but doesn't get what he was hoping for. It's the duo left for the Gilded Gladiators to defend.
They don't have a lot of HP. They're waiting for Cyno to get a big heal for the team. They have to group up around the wave. Left side bird down. Here comes the group. Here comes the heal. That Rod of Asclepius will do it. And here comes the end call.
And all 5 march right in. Stuart gets caught by Tusky. The ultimate from Jake buys only a moment. But with the flag down from the Ferrymen, they will sweep this set through. 3-0 against the Gladiators. Take down Stu. Grab Awesome Jake while you're at it. Nope, can't even do that. It's just the Titan and a 3-0 for the Ferrymen.
I mean, simple enough, right? They walk up the right side Phoenix. Cyclone just drops Tusky. Forces out that ultimate, that damn Strix. The wave comes through. That's the end of the fight, you'd think, but here comes Baskin in the backline, taunts 3 or 4 members of the Gilded Gladiators. It's not the immediate fight win. Kyrmi, of course, crushing waves to the backline and is not able to find any picks. That Hebo, if he's 1 more item in the build, maybe things go differently, but Kyrmi had such a rough early game. The Hebo jungle, as far as I'm concerned, never got online.
It just kind of felt like a non-factor for the majority of that game. Tried to get some opportunities in the late, but Aegis's were up every single time because it felt like there was no real threat to him. It's just a low tide for both of the waves this time through. The Gilded Gladiators come up empty-handed. It's the Styx Ferrymen with a 3-0. Except for us on the cast, throw it to the desk to break it down.
Sorry, kicking things off with a 3-0 here, Myth, and doing it differently in every single game. And this last one, I mean, they highlight it pretty much the best. While the Ferrymen play really well, on the other side, you get to see a lot of good moments, but unfortunately the Hebo never really got to take off to the way that we've seen it take off in the past.
No, it's just, again, Charlie hit it really well. That early game just really set him behind. So often I saw a dive into the mid tower, you know, Pele's just existing in the enemy mid tower, and then Kyrmi rolls through like 10 seconds later, like, well, I'm not catching him because he's got infinite fuel. I guess he's just out at 10 HP. So often, and when you're that far behind on Hebo, it's really difficult to find your footing. I do want to talk about, though, that Artemis build. I'm really starting to see the value of it because of how CDR has changed in the Season of Celebration, how easy it is to acquire CDR. It's just suppress the insolent constantly. The second you get your bow finished up, it's on an 8-second cooldown pre-CDR, and it just allows you to play that poke battle in lane so well. And then that's not the only strangeness we see in builds from the Ferrymen. I'm not sure if you caught Cyno's Hades jungle build. That was criminal. It's crazy, the itemization. Rod of Asclepius and Demonic Grip Hades jungle. I'm sitting out there with the pros and I'm saying, guys, you guys know ball much better than I do. What is that? What's going on? Yark said, look, you just got to think about it. It's good. He wouldn't tell me what was good about it. He said, you just got to think about it. But I think we got the full value. We start to figure it out on that last siege in a Titan room. I'm sitting there. They're all 1 HP. I'm thinking, okay, they're forced to reset. There's no way they can end the game here. Groupon wave, Asclepius heal. Hades resets his entire team. I said, oh, wait, no, it's game. It's over. There's the value. That's why he bought it.
And that was actually, we were having that conversation in the back because
look at that build.
It really did feel like, all right, so I want some damage. Actually, I want more healing now. How about attack speed? I can get the blight buff on them way more if I'm swinging faster. It felt like it was maybe item by item, but like you said, seeing it coalesce at the end, maybe it was item by item, but it did end up creating a monster going 5-1-5. Paul 6-1-7. We had talked about the Pele in mid earlier. It just feels like the game goes well for the Ferrymen. And games 1, games 2, we see a lot of fight back, I think, from the Gladiators. This one, because of that unfortunate early game, it was a little bit less. But I mean, look, you're talking about the last Masters victors that you're going up against that you have to try and take down here. So the Ferrymen at least continuing to reign supreme. And if you look at just competitive sets, it's a 3-0 back into another 3-0 just a couple months later. And so probably a great way to start for them as this kickoff begins. And for those of you who have been watching, that means the Gladiators out of contention at this point. So they're going to get drafted by somebody on Sunday. But for right now, they don't control their own fate. And that'll just be left out to anybody else. That means immediate semifinal wait and a couple-day wait for the Ferrymen. And so, Mifflin, we end up in a really solid spot, I think, for these two teams to be able to take each other on and maybe to show us more or less what we're going to expect from them. Again, Ferrymen with the victory here, move forward, nice 3-0. And in a little bit, we're going to be watching the Warriors and the Kings take each other on, which I think is going to be really fun.
I can't wait. Dude, the grudge match, Warriors steal the support, you know, things really cooking up there, but got to talk about what's happened already in the Styx Ferrymen putting on a clinic in the first set back. What a way to start off the year for them, or the second half of the year, I should say. Clean stuff. Heart goes out to the Gladiators, man. They get some roster changes, couldn't quite even find the individual map win, but they'll have some time to practice and watch the VODs and get ready as we start to get spool up into the phase.
We talked a lot about, I think, everything that was around it, and I'm going to admit it's like my fault for assuming Cyno would play something somewhat normal in the jungle when we were doing picks and bans and assuming it was going to be the Erlang. Instead, it was Erlang in the solo lane. And I was going to ask you about it, but I think maybe better just get the word straight from the horse's mouth in this case. And the horse is Baskin. We had him standing by for an interview.
It's not a horse.
It's clearly not a horse next to me. This is Baskin, solo laner here for the Styx Ferrymen. First off, congrats on the 3-0 win. Let's cut right to this Hades thing. We see it drafted up in the picks and bans. Was that immediately like, okay, this one is 100% going to Cyno as it's locked, or was that one that y'all were kind of keeping as a flex pick?
No, Cyno wanted it in picks and bans, so it wasn't flex. But yeah, I mean, one thing I learned about Cyno, teaming with Cyno, you just kind of gotta let him cook. So yeah.
And what a recipe built up here, not just whatever actual recipe he built, but just the builds kind of across the board. Demonic Grip, Staff of Mirrodin, even kind of going a little bit off with the, I think it was a Spartan flag pickup by Aror at the very end there. What's kind of the mindset of the team moving into this phase? Is it to keep doing some of the experimenting that you guys are going with? Have you kind of found what you guys like to do? What's kind of the idea for the Ferrymen moving forward?
Well, I don't think anyone really knows what's good on the new patch yet. There's been a lot of changes, and I think teams have only been screening for maybe 1-2 weeks, so we're definitely still in the phase of experimenting with picks. The recipes changed a lot, and on top of that, this is one of the biggest patches recently, so yeah, there's a lot of stuff to experiment with. And even before, I think we've always been a team to be open to like more off-meta picks, so yeah, I expect us to keep experimenting.
And speaking of another off-meta pick, game number 1, you get the Opwash back. You were playing a lot kind of during our 4 fun tournaments a little bit earlier on. Get a big win for it now? Are we going to be expecting to see more of this Opwash solo, or is it now that you got that big competitive win put on the shelf now?
I think it's good. I don't know. I think Opwash gets a bad rap for being like a troll character or something, but I actually think it's good. But yeah, I mean, I'm like I said, I'm still experimenting with stuff. I don't really know it's good yet because we haven't had that much practice. So yeah, I mean, maybe pick more Opwash. I don't know.
Well, if game 1's any indication, looks like a good pick for you. Maybe we see it a little bit more in the future. Batz, thanks for coming out for the post-game interview. Congrats on your win. We'll throw it back over to the desk.
Experimentation is what's in the future, at least for the Ferrymen. I'm assuming for a lot of these teams right now is figuring out, as Baskin had said, nobody knows quite yet what is the best of the best. And maybe in a couple weeks, maybe in a month, we'll be in that area. But with the patches, the changes that I'm assuming are still going to keep rolling in, we're going to be seeing a lot of that. But again, up next, Kings taking on the Warriors. The Warriors steal the King's support.
Yep.
The Kings pick up Quig.
Yep.
And so it's going to create a fun dynamic for us, something that we're going to have to find out how it shakes out right after this quick break.
Gotta get the cake. Okay, this ain't what you used to. Always with the new, this ain't what you used to. I do me, do you? I do me, do you? This ain't what you used to. 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 This ain't what you. No, this ain't what you used to. Switching from the bikes to a new coupe. You know I keep some new shoes.